Good afternoon or good morning wherever you are. This is Steve Lookner coming to you from Right Side Broadcasting Studios. We didn't have a regularly scheduled program for today, but we wanted to cut in because there's some breaking news going on we thought you'd be interested in, and we wanted to report on it. We want to give you an alternative to going to the mainstream media for everything, especially when there's breaking news. And so I'm here today. Adam Taxon is off today, so he would normally be here. So just want to bring you the latest as we know it. I'm here with my iPad getting the latest as I know it, so excuse me as I look down. Basically, in case you hadn't heard already, the story is this. At Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport, it's an airport in Florida, there was a shooting. This is all information I've gotten from the internet and on the networks that I've heard. So there was a shooting that I've heard at a baggage claim area. One rumor, unconfirmed online, was that it was at Terminal 2, but I'm not sure. The other information, this was from all the networks, so this has been confirmed from the networks. There's multiple injuries. I have heard a bunch of reports on Twitter of 1 dead. I saw one story that said 3 dead, but that's unconfirmed. So basically, as this comes in, we're going to give you more information as we have it. But again, the latest right now is there's been a shooting at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport in Florida. Multiple victims. I saw up to 9 injured. I saw reports of at least 1 dead. Also a report that we saw on the news networks was that there was a single shooter and that shooter was in custody. So the reports of a single shooter in custody. It's important to keep in mind though, I'm kind of a breaking news person, and I like to follow when there's breaking news. And I've really noticed that like in the first hour or two after a breaking news incident, you really can't be sure of details. I remember there was a shooting in Germany about 6 months ago where basically just a crazy person took their gun and just started firing at random people. And for like the first hour or two, all the reports were like, oh, this is probably terrorism. And I remember, I even remember like Bob Baer on CNN, who's a guy who I think is a really smart guy and I respect, and he's a terrorism expert. And Bob Baer came on after that Germany shooting, and he was like, this is definitely terrorism. He said, like, it's too organized. And then, but gradually it kind of came out that, like, it was just one crazy guy who just fired on his gun. And so my point about Bob Baer is not that Bob Baer is dumb, because Bob Baer is really smart, I think. But my point is that in the first hour or two of these things, like, you'll hear information and it'll just turn out to be wrong a lot of the time. So at least right now, it seems pretty confirmed there's been a shooting. We think it was in the baggage claim area. There's been multiple injuries, maybe 1 dead. We've heard a shooter is in custody. We've heard that there's only 1 shooter and that shooter's in custody. Also, just so you know, I have, in addition to my iPad, Jake and Brad are in the office today. They're producing, and also they have their eyes on the TV, so if they see anything, they'll let me know. So let me just, excuse me as I look down, and I'm going to look briefly through my Twitter feed and see, I have a bunch of so now I'm seeing, Jake just came in and gave me a source who said 3 dead. Oh, thank you, Jake. So, okay. So Jake just pointed out, according to MSNBC, I can see out of the corner of my eye, MSNBC is now reporting 3 dead and 9 shot at Fort Lauderdale Airport. We don't know who the dead are. We know nothing about this really. Okay, so I'm going to go through some tweets now. These are on my feed, and I'll let you know where I'm getting this so you can follow along as well. CBS News tweeted 3 minutes ago, witness Mike Starobinski describes seeing man bleeding profusely on lower level of Fort Lauderdale Airport. So that's a eyewitness account. Let's see. BNO News, which is at BNO News. That's a site I follow for breaking news stuff, and they're usually pretty good. They say their update is at least 3 dead, up to 9 injured. That came out a minute ago. I'm seeing News Source LA has 3 dead, 9 shot. So anyways, I will look down again periodically at my Twitter. I just want to say a couple things in terms of perspective here. So I think obviously one question we have to ask here is this terrorism or not? And it's very important. Well, it's a significant event either way, very bad, tragic event either way. But if it's terrorism or not terrorism, that's a big difference. And this is something which we're going to it's probably going to take a little while for us to know. So, but that's certainly a significant aspect. It struck me when I heard this report, which is, if you've been following kind of world events over the last 6 months to a year, Turkey, their airports have been the victims of terrorist attacks. And there was one a couple months ago, I know, where people basically, a couple shooters went into it was either the arrivals or the departure area and just started shooting a lot of people. And then there was also the bombing, I believe, was it Belgium, where there was an airport bombing. I believe this was about maybe 6 months to a year ago. I could look it up, but I don't want to bother doing that right now because you'll just be watching me look at stuff on my iPod. But this is, I believe that's what happened. But it was basically bombers going into like a baggage area or an arrivals or departure area. And a lot of analysts have pointed out how these are very vulnerable spaces, these areas and airports, because an airport is like a prime target, but as you know, there's lots of security to get on a plane and even to get past security. But baggage claim areas and areas where people come in and you like ticketing areas, the arrivals areas, that's part of airports that a lot of airports there's no security. I mean, I've traveled recently in Atlanta, I've traveled recently at Los Angeles, and I'm guessing a lot of you have traveled at airports recently. And recently in America, I mean, I'm guessing there's hidden security, but anybody can pretty much walk into a baggage claim area or walk into a ticketing area. And it's been this worry that this kind of stuff could happen more. So if it turns out, and of course, we have no idea what the case here is. But if it turns out that this was a terrorist attack and it was at like a baggage claim area or a ticketing area or something, that's kind of like a really big deal, whole new ballgame thing for American airports. And I was just thinking today, if that is the case, what would that mean for American airports? Like if it turns out, let's just say it turns out that some guy walked in and shot up a baggage claim area. So now, is there going to be security to get into the baggage claim area? Will people not be able to pick you up right there? There's all these questions that come up in ramifications, in addition to all of the ramifications if it's a terrorist attack. But again, we know nothing right now. Okay, I don't want to keep talking and not give you the latest. So let me take a quick look down at my feed again to update you. We broke into coverage. We broke in today to do some breaking news here at Right Side Broadcasting. There has been a shooting at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport in Florida. From what we can gather from all the sources we've looked at, it looks like up to 9 people have been shot. MSNBC is reporting that 3 have been dead. We have heard reports, unconfirmed, that this was in a baggage claim area, but this could change because the facts in these early stages are unclear. And we're waiting, like you and and the networks, to kind of find out more about this. Supposedly, reportedly, one shooter was in custody. I heard a report that it was the only shooter. I don't know. I don't know for a fact they're in custody, but we heard this reported. So let me quickly look down at my feed and see if I have any new stuff, new information as opposed to the same old information that's here. So I'm looking at my Twitter feed. Nothing. Another thing I like to do, which I find helpful, if you do it with a grain of salt in these cases, is there's a site called Reddit. And Reddit is a site where basically someone posts a news story and everyone else can post comments on it. And often in breaking news events, Reddit will have one page where somebody posted the initial story and then everybody can post comments. And one thing there's a good and a bad about that. The good is, like, a lot of times you get like lots of really up-to-date news as people kind of post comments from their individual sources, but a lot of times you get like people posting things that are wrong. So when I look at my Reddit feed for the story, I kind of just sort of see what the latest rumors are. Oh, we have something in. Okay, so the latest, Jake is giving me an update here. It says CNN reports suspect is in custody. We don't know if that's the only suspect, correct? So we know it's a suspect.
Still reporting lone.
So the thinking it now is lone suspect in custody. We know nothing about this person. So anyways, I'm looking at my Reddit stream and I can't find anything else. Can't find anything new yet. And also, if I had more time here, and this is another good breaking news tip. Reddit will also, what they do is if it's like a big enough breaking news story, they will create a page where they will have like an army of people going on Twitter and looking at the news and just posting the latest updates. So it's a moderated page. It's not like anyone can post like normal Reddit. It's like 4 or 5 people and they give you the latest. I don't have that here, but we also fortunately have Jake and Brad giving me updates here. And we have another update that says, Fort Lauderdale airport manager says situation has been resolved. Investigation underway. Okay, so fortunately for now, it looks like no one else is getting, that the situation is under control in terms of people getting, Brad, do we have any updates or anything like that?
Looks like the airport's been pretty much fully evacuated.
The airport's been evacuated. Okay, there's very interesting pictures I see right now and I saw before of people, it looks like, from what I saw, and I don't have this confirmed, that there were passengers on the tarmac. There were a lot of civilians on the tarmac. And if you know anything about airport, I mean, I'm not an airport expert. I am not an airport expert, but civilians on a tarmac is like a big no-no. So
they're reporting the shooting was in Terminal 2.
Terminal 2, thank you, Brad. So shooting was in Terminal 2. I heard reports that it was in the baggage claim, but not sure. But just to get it back to, if you look on, I just saw it on MSNBC now, I saw it on Fox or CNN earlier. There's a huge, it looked to me about like 100 civilians on the tarmac. And I don't know if that's civilians from a plane that had been evacuated or civilians from like an airline terminal, but that's really serious. If things were so, if the situation was such that civilians were told to go on a tarmac, that means there was a real sense of danger there, because that's like the place in an airport you don't want civilians, where like planes are and equipment is and stuff. So that suggests some real chaos and danger there. I'm not sure what the story with that was, but and I was still just seeing those pictures. So it's a very serious situation. Let me go check my Twitter again. This is, I came here from LA, so this is from News Source LA. News Source LA is reporting that LAX airport police, that's in Los Angeles, are deploying additional resources into the terminals and increased presence in the central terminal. This is from LA Airport PD. Now this is more relevant to LA. I'm guessing that other airports around the country are taking similar measures to this, and there's always a worry with things like this that it's part of a larger thing that's going on. So hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's just isolated to Fort Lauderdale, but that is a concern that always happens. So we will keep our eyes and ears out and see what else, see if we can hear anything more about that. And I'm looking, I see another report. Broward Sheriff, which is from Broward County, Florida, says confirmed shooting at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport with multiple people dead. That's from Broward Sheriff. And that says one, and this says one subject in custody. This is from the Broward Sheriff. This is at Broward Sheriff. And when people like Broward Sheriff, when law enforcement or authorities put tweets out, I think you should really read into their language, because they're not sort of casually putting the tweet out. And when they say one subject in custody, they didn't say only subject in custody. So that suggests that they're not sure if there were more subjects. So let me just see if there's any more updates here. I see another multiple people dead, one person in custody. So right now, that looks to be the latest right now. We have Micah here. Micah, do you have any updates? Or? We're about to.
So they can actually see what's going on.
Oh, this is fantastic. So Micah just came in and informed me that we are going to pull a live feed that we have legally, custody and motive unknown. Okay, so this is interesting. We have BNO News is reporting that mayor, and I don't know which mayor this is, but I assume it's a Florida mayor, I don't know. But BNO News says the mayor of something reports that sole gunman is in custody. So that would be important information, because that would suggest that there's only one gunman. Of course, there could be accomplices. So even if it turns out there's only one gunman or gunwoman, I don't even know that, if it's a male person, that hasn't been confirmed to me. For all you know, there are accomplices in this thing, and so we might see, like we did in San Bernardino. I remember after that shooting, there were like searches of houses of the shooters and people. There was a question of whether other people were involved. So we very well might see further activity today in Florida or somewhere else, where perhaps it turns out that someone else was involved, whether or not this was terrorism. So there's this, I want to get back to the terrorism thing, because that's a really interesting. Oh, and I first want to encourage people. If you've seen me on the network before, you know that I'm really big on don't react to things emotionally. So I would encourage you all to not just post immediately this is Obama's fault or this is not, this is the Republicans' fault or whatever political view you take on it without getting the full facts. Just keep in mind now, there's so many possibilities for what this kind of stuff can be. Could have been terrorism. But even if it is terrorism, is it somebody who's super affiliated with ISIS or somebody like that? Or is it just some random person? It could be some random dude who decides to do this and then calls it terrorism, and he had no contact with ISIS or people who were in a terrorist organization. So we don't know. We have no idea. Even if it's terrorism, there's so much we don't know. But it could just be random person with a gun just goes crazy and shoots people. Why could that happen? It could be they are just a crazy person. They had a domestic dispute and it set them off. It could be that they had something at work that set them off. There could have been a fight between people at the airport. That can happen. It could have been somebody got in a fight at the airport and there was some kind of thing there. So I'm just pointing out how little we know about, and Brad, do you have an update here?
We actually have the live feed now.
Yes.
So if you want to go ahead and report that the people are just that the EMS is evacuating the people right now.
Okay.
Fire is on the scene.
Okay.
The police are still evacuating.
Okay, so I'm getting a report that we have the live feed up, and the report was that EMS is on the scene, and I'm getting a report that they're evacuating the airport, and fire is on the scene, and police is on the scene, and we're hearing that they're evacuating the whole airport. That's interesting to me that they're evacuating it.
K9 dogs are on the scene.
Okay, so there are K9 dogs on the scene. It's interesting when they do something like this. So and I'm just giving you some thoughts I have when I hear this. So we've heard that a report that the sole shooter is in custody, but one possibility could be that they're not sure if all the shooters have been gotten into custody. So that could be a reason for an evacuation. Another reason for an evacuation is, could the person have left explosives? I'm guessing if somebody shot up an airport or some part of an airport, to be cautious, they would say, hey, maybe somebody had some bombs. And I just had a thought now. I'm guessing you have, even whether this happened at a baggage claim or not, you have an airport full of abandoned baggage. And every one of those bags could seem like a bomb to the authorities. So, this is great. So Brad just handed me, this is wonderful. I can see the stream. I can see myself in the stream, which is so interesting. But the stream itself is, okay, we have a shot of an airport, and what we're seeing now on your stream, and what we're seeing is, it looks like there's a lot of people still on the tarmac, and we're seeing authorities, and so this is an overhead shot, and so I'll keep my eye on the stream too. And as I was saying, with the baggage, what makes this really difficult, I have to imagine, is they have to think that perhaps there's some kind of bomb in there. Be cautious and look for this. But if you now have an airport full of abandoned baggage, I have to assume that if people were on the tarmac, civilians, they got out of wherever they were standing pretty quick. So I have to guess that in addition to any baggage that was already on the baggage claim area, there's lots of baggage possibly that people just abandoned as they ran away. You might have hundreds of abandoned bags, and as we heard, there's K9 units, so perhaps they have to check all of these bags and make sure not one of them's not a bomb. So, okay, and I'm looking at the feed now. This is interesting. So we're seeing people, it looks like a ton of people walking up a ramp from the tarmac. I'm guessing they're not getting on the plane, so I'm guessing they're maybe being evacuated from the tarmac. So wow, it really looks like, it's very interesting. I'm wondering if every plane, as you know, with airports, there's usually a bunch of planes waiting to take off, and there's also planes that are people are boarding the planes. And it seems like what might have happened is, let's say X number of planes were on the tarmac, it could have been 15 or 20, whatever. What might have happened is, as soon as this shooting happens, they might have said, everybody get off every plane wherever you are, for whatever reason. Maybe they thought there were bombs on the plane or whatever. So what might have happened is, you might have had 10, 20 plane loads of people running off the planes and sitting on the tarmac, and now they have these people on the tarmac, because I just saw a ton of people walking off the tarmac, going up one of the ramps to try to get, I assume, out of the airport or whatever. So really chaotic situation and a dangerous situation, it seems like, too. So I will keep my eye on the feed. I also want to give you an update from Twitter here and see if there's anything new here. Do we have anything new yet? I'm going through my feed and letting you know what I can see. Doesn't seem like anything totally new yet. Bear with me. Okay, we have another. So Fox 11 Los Angeles is reporting, mayor says, I don't know which mayor, says a lone shooter responsible for attack in Fort Lauderdale Airport. That's according to the Associated Press. So we're hearing another report of lone shooter. And let's see. Oh, B&O News. Okay, so B&O News, this is from 6 minutes ago. B&O News says Sheriff's Office confirms multiple people killed in shooting at Florida Airport. We have another, you've heard this report before, the report that mayor says Sol Gumman is in custody, motive unknown. So we still have this situation, and we still really seem to know basically nothing about why this is what was done, the circumstances under which it was done. Since we're seeing some more footage on the feed, it looks like it looks like a highway, and I'm not sure which highway it is. It does seem like we have one side blocked off, and a bunch of the other one blocked off. So it really looks like they're locking down that airport area, if that's what they're showing. But I want to go back for a second and just say, like, it's perspective here. If whether or not this turns out to be terrorism is a very important question. If it does turn out to be a terrorist act, like, say, the shooting at the nightclub in Florida from a few months ago, if it's a terrorist act like that at an airport, that's, first of all, it's just very, very significant if it's a terrorist act on American soil. But if it's at an airport, I think you might see really significant changes at airports. I mean, because this has been talked about for a while. This has happened again repeatedly in Turkey, where arrival and departure areas are attacked, baggage claim areas are attacked. So we have an update here. All airport services are suspended. All airports or services are suspended. So very significant. And I have to imagine also, keep thinking of different ramifications this has. And obviously, let me say the most important ramification is that people are injured and killed, which is awful. And just know, all of us here at Right Side express our deepest sympathies to anyone that was injured in this, and families, and we feel terrible about this. And we're going to forget to say that, but just know it's a very big concern of ours. So that being said, I wanted to say also that if it is terrorism, that's significant, very significant in itself. This would be a very big terrorist act. But if it's at an airport, we could see significant ramifications on, like, right now, basically, it's very easy. I can get in my car and I can drive to Atlanta Airport or LA Airport or whatever airport. I can drive right up to departures or right up to arrivals. Somebody can get out. You can walk right into the baggage area, right into the ticketing area, and that can be very dangerous. Miami Airport, we have a report in Miami Airport has increased security. So we've heard LAX, Los Angeles, and Miami has increased security. One other aspect of this, which is less important than the injuries and deaths, but still significant, is I have to imagine if that airport is closed, we very well might see big delays because you have flights now which were going to go from there to other places, and it was early in the day, so a lot of times these flights go from X to Y and then they go from Y to Z. So if you are flying today or have relatives flying or friends, you might want to check airport flight updates and that kind of thing, because stuff like this could really delay things. And also, for all I know, it'll delay things at other airports, because you'll have other airports more security. It would not surprise me, and I haven't been to any airports today, obviously, but it might take longer for flights to take off. It might take longer for people to go through security in airports. So everything might get screwed up travel-wise. I'm just letting you know, I think this is Brad's phone. I heard the tweet ring, so I just don't want you to miss an important tweet. I'm sorry?
Pull the feed.
Pull up the feed in here. I'm sorry, Brad. Just tell me, I didn't get, by pull up the feed in here, can I do that?
The video.
That's very smart. So Brad is suggesting to me, hey, Steve, if you actually go on your iPad, you can go to our site and pull the video up. That seems like a very reasonable suggestion. So Brad, if you can just tell me, because I haven't been out there, what is our feed up under?
Just search our
RSBN?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sorry, folks. It's breaking news. Breaking news. There's our feed. Okay, good. So now I can look at this and I can give you a better idea. But I'm going to skip the ad. So I don't encourage you. All right. So I'm skipping the ad because I'm reporting. But folks, we make money from these ads. So please, when you see ads on our network, don't skip them if you can. Okay. The feed I'm seeing right now is an overhead shot. And I don't know where this is. And I see it looks like an ambulance. I'm assuming it's Florida, and it looks like an ambulance. Maybe they're shooting the area where they're expecting like injuries to come in or something. Let me go back to Twitter. I like to do this periodically and just let you know the latest I'm hearing here. Let's see. Can I give you any new information here? Breaking. Okay, so we have Sebastian Gorka, who is somebody on Twitter who Adam Taxon really recommends. He's at Seb Gorka. He clicks to Fox News, and Fox News is reporting at least 6 reportedly injured. We've heard more than that, but that's from the Fox News site. And I'm being told to move a little left. That way? We good, Brad? More? Okay. Okay. Sorry if for that stuff. We have, let me see, another really great site. If you like to follow breaking news, I highly recommend Conflict News. Conflict News, that's at Conflicts. I'm sorry? More? Good? Okay, sorry. And at Conflicts, they are a fantastic site for breaking news. This is... They give an update that says Broward County Mayor Barbara Sharif tells CNN that the gunman is in custody and was a lone shooter. So that's from Conflict News. Very good site to follow in general. And as I say before, and as I'll say repeatedly, when these breaking news things happen, even the most reputable sources can turn out to be wrong about things. So we still have nothing about motive. I'm getting an update from Micah. MSNBC is reporting Terminal 2. Okay. Interestingly, so I had heard earlier that this was at a baggage claim. Somebody had reported this. I can't remember whom. I'm sorry, and I don't know if that's true or not. And all we're hearing is Terminal 2. So let's think about this. We don't know if it was inside security or outside security. That's significant either way. If it was inside security, the question is, how did a person get a gun inside security? Although, let me say, here's another possibility. There could be somebody who was legally permitted to have a gun inside there. It could have been a police officer. It could have been a security officer. I don't know. My point is, we have no idea who this gunman was and what the circumstances are. It could be anything. But so we don't know if it was inside the security at Terminal 2 or outside the security at Terminal 2. Any of this information, whatever it turns out to be, could have very significant impact on travel and airports and how we have security at airports. So this is all going to be very significant. We have no identification of who the shooter is. And again, let me just repeat, I like to keep repeating this, that this was a shooting at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport today. This was in Florida. We know from various reports that we've heard between 6 and 9 people injured. We've had it confirmed from the Broward County Sheriff Department that multiple people are dead. We've had it that there's a Broward confirmed that there's a sole shooter. The sole shooter's in custody. And I'm getting another update. Okay, we have an update, and I'm not sure what this is from, but so this is... All right, so this is an eyewitness account that I'm giving. This is a reported eyewitness. So again, take everything with a grain of salt. Reported eyewitness, but unconfirmed, says, handgun shooting randomly, elderly people killed, no words while shooting. So that is a reported eyewitness account. But to be clear, I'm not sure, I don't know where that came from. I have somebody on Reddit who said that they saw SWAT trucks on the highway headed the opposite direction. Not what I was expecting to be the case, but I don't. Again, I can't be sure about that stuff. That was from MSNBC. Your eyewitness, the eyewitness we just heard about. That there was. So this eyewitness was on MSNBC, and that eyewitness said, Micah, just to be clear, they said no words while shooting. They called into NBC, and they said no words while shooting. They said elderly people shot. And random gunman shooting gunman, handgun, randomly shooting. Randomly shooting into the crowd. So this is, again, what if that is true, as I look for my water, as that is true, let's just take a second and assume that's true. I don't know. It's not confirmed. What can we read into that? Can't say whether it's terrorism or not terrorism. We can't say whether it was targeted or not at specific people. Randomly shooting sounds like it's, untargeted, but for all you know, somebody goes in there, they target a couple specific people, and then they randomly shoot other people. Again, we just don't know. Another question I am guessing is all over Twitter right now is, what is the race of this person? What is the religion of this person? I will state the obvious, that some people will be out there trying to put forth whatever narrative they want. We have Governor Rick Scott is heading to the airport in Fort Lauderdale, Florida Governor Rick Scott. So we've just gotten that report. So I'm guessing if you go on Twitter, you can find some people saying and I'm guessing there's going to be some of this is going to be a Muslim, or no, stop saying it's going to be a Muslim, we don't know. And just let's take a second and know we have no idea who this person is, and even if you hear initial information about the person, who they are, take it with a grain of salt. And even if it turns out, say the person has a Muslim sounding name, that doesn't mean they are Muslim. And even if they are Muslim, that doesn't mean it was terrorism. So the facts will all come out, and you are all, you should all feel free, as you are as an American, to take whatever view of this based on the facts you do. But just the one piece of advice I would give for breaking news, because I'm kind of a breaking news fanatic, as I've said, and I like knowing what's happening and getting all the information, is so much stuff turns out to be wrong, like stuff that reputable people, and as I said earlier, this guy, I remember a case from 6 months ago where Bob Baer, who's I think is a very smart guy on CNN, said it's definitely terrorism, and it wasn't actually. So, okay. So take everything with a grain of salt. We have a report just in from Fox. I believe this is Fox News, that it was the Fox News, yes, thanks Micah, that it was the lower level baggage claim. So this is really significant. So we have seen in other countries like Turkey that analysts have said this is a very vulnerable part of airports, because airports are seen by some terrorists as a high-value target. And in American airports, as far as my experience has been, no obvious security in terms of the arrival, like the place where you initially come in and go to ticketing, or the baggage claim areas. And we have, MSNBC is reporting 4 dead, 9 wounded, and I don't know if the 9. I assume the 9 wounded are in addition to the 4 dead. That's a really big number. And another thing about this is, it's so. I don't know. Hey, I'm going to give a shout out. Brad or Jake?
Yes.
What I think would be great, is there someone there who knows something about guns who could maybe come on for a second, who I could ask a question about?
I could give you some.
Yeah, could you come on? Could you maybe grab a mic? Because I think it's interesting information that I would love to ask somebody about guns. So Brad Savage is one of our producers, and I'd love to get Brad in here for a second to ask him about this new information we just got. So we have this information that MSNBC, or I think it was Fox who reported that 4 were dead. I'm going to shift over here so Brad can get in. Hold on a second. Welcome, Brad. And Mike is going to adjust the camera and stuff. And so, and then so Brad, I apologize for not telling you what I'm going to ask you.
That's fine.
But all right, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold on for a second and let Micah get the camera up and set up here. So again, we're at our breaking news coverage here on right side of the shooting at the airport in Fort Lauderdale. We've been told that there's a single shooter. This is what we can gather, who's in custody, and that there's 4 dead and 9 wounded. And as soon as the camera resets, I'm going to ask Brad. Okay, so I'm here with Brad Savage. Brad, you're a producer at Right Side Broadcasting.
Yes, sir.
So the reason I want to bring you in here is the 2 pieces of recent information we got is, one, handgun, random shooting, so handgun.
Right.
Now, let's assume this is true. This is not like confirmed. Let's assume it was a handgun.
Right.
2, 4 dead, 9 wounded. Now, I don't know a lot about shooting, but let's assume somebody goes in there and starts randomly shooting with a handgun, and people all run away as soon as they start shooting.
Right.
When you hear 4 dead, 9 wounded, does that suggest to you like somebody must have had training, or like if like it was me and I had no random training, could I kill 4 people and wound 9 with a handgun that fast, or does that suggest anything to you at all?
Absolutely. With a large capacity magazine, you could definitely wound and kill that.
I'm sorry, let me interrupt. 5 dead from CNN.
Okay,
so, but
fine.
this is relevant to this question. So that's really bad news. So I'm sorry. So again, my question to you is: could somebody with a random handgun just walk in there and start shooting, and people run away when they're shooting and kill 5 people? What do you think about that?
Just based on the size of the crowd.
Right.
If it's a group of people, like grouped together.
Right.
You don't need to be a sharpshooter to hit, to shoot at a crowd like that. And if you have a large capacity magazine, it wouldn't take any serious training or effort to do that.
Now, the part of this question comes from my experience with guns. Is I once went to a range to shoot guns, and I had no experience, and I couldn't hit like a target that was really close to me, and it was much harder to do than I thought. And so my thought when hearing this was, well, if 5 people got killed that fast, like, does that mean this person's a good marksman, or does that mean they just have really powerful ammo? I mean, do you have any sense of
it? Could have been that he was up close.
Oh, you're really close to all the people,
right,
you're saying.
It could have been that he was like right up on the people and really didn't have to aim much.
That's a very good point.
It could have been that he had just pulled the weapon out,
Right.
I don't know for sure. But it could have been that he had just pulled the weapon and basically drawn and, been right. Maybe he was right in the midst of the crowd, so all he had to do was pull it out.
Okay. So, and also another thing, when we hear that many people are killed and injured, so right now we've heard 5 dead and 9 wounded. Right. So, again, I know very little about guns and how many bullets they can hold. I know some hold a limited amount of bullets. A handgun, are there like different ones in terms of how much they hold and whether you need to reload them or not? And does it suggest, if somebody killed and injured this many people that fast, does that suggest anything about the amount of ammo that might have been in there? Or?
Well, there are high capacity, what you would consider a high capacity magazine that would hold, say, up to 14 rounds.
And now I'm just going to interrupt you with this update. It was the Terminal 2 baggage claim. Fox is reporting that's where the shooting was. I'm sorry, so to re-ask the question, does the fact that it was a handgun injuring and killing that many people, and that suggest anything to you about the kind of gun it was or the kind of ammunition?
I would say that it was a full size. I would speculate that it was I think it's safe to say that it was a high capacity magazine in a full-size handgun.
And what is high capacity, just for people who don't know?
High capacity would mean that it would hold a higher number of rounds, more than your average.
And like numbers-wise, how many might that be?
I would say it would hold at least around 14 rounds, but I'm guessing that he had more than one magazine.
So you're saying, given that many people got injured and shot, and how long would it take to reload for somebody who knew what they were doing?
Well, for someone who has training, you could do it within maybe a second.
Maybe it's that fast, really?
Yeah, it's drop and go. But for someone not so much qualified, or someone with minimal experience, reloading a handgun, basically, it's pretty. It really wouldn't.
That's really fast.
Longer. It wouldn't take much longer, right?
And we just got a report in the last second. And Micah, could I ask you real quick if you ever hear this? So Micah gave us a report that he had seen that the FAA was. We had a report that FAA was diverting aircraft and halting some. So are we assuming that's diverting from that airport? Is that the idea? And then halting some at other places? Maybe we're not sure. Basically about that.
They halted all aircraft on the ground, diverting aircraft inbound.
Okay, so at Fort Lauderdale Airport, they halted all aircraft on the ground, and they're diverting some from the airport. So maybe they're letting some land there. We're not sure about that. But okay.
Probably close in ones.
I'm sorry?
Probably close in aircraft were diverted.
Oh, okay. So maybe ones that were farther away, they might not have diverted. Okay. Now I want to. So just because you know way more about guns than me. Anything else when you hear this information that just comes to your mind? Let's just, again, assuming we don't know that this was a sole shooter and it's a handgun, what kind of thoughts do you have about this?
My guess is that this guy really had his mind set and planned, knew what he was going to do well ahead of time. And basically, like you said, because in that situation that he put himself in, that would be a very, I guess I don't really know. I don't understand his thinking or his mindset, but obviously he's got some training with handguns. obviously he understands the mechanisms as far as quickly reloading, and especially the amount of ammunition that he needed to carry out this horrific tragedy. So I'm guessing this guy has been to probably been to a few shooting ranges.
So this is an interesting point. I want to just go into this a little more. So you're saying you think that this shows he has some training.
Absolutely.
Now, and can I just specifically and hold on, we're getting another update for you. 8 people. CNN is reporting 8 people taken to the hospital. Wow. MSNBC, this is an eyewitness, so we can't trust this.
Right.
We have no idea if this person knows anything about guns.
Right.
But an eyewitness on MSNBC said shooter stopped shooting because he ran out of bullets. So, all right, so a couple questions here. Let's talk about, all right, so the bullets thing, we just got that. Let's talk about that for a second.
Right.
So, my first thought when I hear this is if somebody's hell-bent on doing a big terrorist attack, bullets don't take up that much space to carry, right or wrong?
No.
So running out of bullets seems like maybe that they weren't like, it wasn't like I'm going to take all this time planning this attack and bring all this ammunition. But maybe I'm wrong. So what do you think about that?
Well, let's just say, it's not actually. Assuming, I don't like to assume, but let's just assume for a second that he brought one magazine, carried around 14 rounds. He emptied that magazine,
right?
Maybe into the crowd that he was standing in the midst of, and that was it. Or potentially he could have had extra magazines, which, like you said, it's not hard to carry an extra 2 or 3 magazines fully loaded with another 14 rounds per magazine.
Right.
And now that would be a lot of rounds.
But see, it's something you just, when I was thinking when you said he had extra magazines, so this eyewitness might have seen the person run out of bullets and run away or stop, but for all you know, they had extra magazines on them, but by the time they stopped shooting, either the police were there or the person kind of freaked out or something. So just because they stopped shooting because they ran out of bullets doesn't mean they didn't have more on them.
That does not mean that they were entirely out of ammunition.
So that's a very good point. And so
they're still an active threat, very much so.
Okay, and I want to go back to your last point about I want to ask why. So you thought that this person, given what we know, if it wasn't what we think we know, given assuming it was a handgun with a lone gunman and that they killed 5 people, I guess it is now, and we've heard 8 or 9 injured, you think this person must have had some training and been familiar with gun usage and not be somebody who, say, didn't know how to use a gun until yesterday. And could you say a little more on why you think that?
Here's what I think. Either they're trained, they've practiced, they've spent some time in a range preparing themselves, or they're just an absolute wingnut and they just have no concern at all for anything.
Right.
Because being in a situation like that, it's a very high stress. Even I would imagine, even if you were the one creating that chaos, I have to imagine it's an insanely stressful situation. So this guy seriously had some things planned out for sure, one way or the other.
I've heard this point on other shootings that analysts will make this point. They'll say if somebody can kind of keep their cool while doing this stuff, it shows they have some training, although you say they might just be crazy. But it suggests they might have had some training with shooting because... To me it suggests he either has training with shooting or he has some very, very evil intentions that he's had that have, sort of made it where he doesn't really feel that. He doesn't feel the normal thing. He doesn't feel that stress. He doesn't feel that kind of intensity going on because in his mind everything is normal to him. Right. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I don't know for sure that he has the training. It could be just that he's interesting. Now let's say, Brad, stick with me for a second. I'm just going to check my Twitter feed because I like to see. We have an update here. It says, handgun wearing normal clothes, reloaded and started shooting again. This is a Fox News eyewitness. So let me start again. Fox News eyewitness says, handgun wearing normal clothes, reloaded and started shooting again. White male, 30s, no words said.
Right. Yeah.
So the reload. Thank you, Micah. So the reloaded part. What do you think as someone who knows something about guns when you hear reloading?
Reloading suggests that he.
Sorry, I'm getting my
no
water.
words said to, and reloading.
Yep.
That suggests he put a significant amount of thought into this, for sure. He put a lot of thought.
Why are you saying that? Just to elaborate for the people out there.
Well, no words to me sounds as if he has absolutely no emotion, because he's not even screaming at people angrily. If he were to be screaming at people, and I'm not a therapist, and I'm not a gun expert, let's just put that on the record, and I don't understand, I'm not a psychologist by any means, but to me, if I saw someone shooting, reloading, and not saying a word into a massive crowd like that, that would kind of signify to me that maybe this guy, he's been preparing for this.
Right, that's an interesting thought. And one thing I thought of too when we heard the not shooting is, so in a lot of terrorist attacks, as I'm sure those of you who follow the news are aware, we hear the shooter shouted something. So I remember the assassination of the Russian
that would suggest like an anger, like he wants everyone to know why he's doing it.
Right. Yeah. So normally it's not always the case, and I'm assuming it's not always the case. But in tons of recent terrorist attacks, it's people, as you said, who want to know why people want like when the Russian ambassador was shot in Turkey a couple months ago. That guy gave like this giant speech to everyone, and we also have heard just. For example, with fundamental Islamic terrorists, they might be say like Allah Akbar. So I don't know. One might argue that if the person really said nothing, that suggests it wasn't terrorism. But I don't know. They could have left a note. They could have.
That's a good argument. But it's just really too early to say.
Right. Hey, Brad, this is kind of, I'm putting you on the spot here, but I was just going to go out and like take a 1 minute break and get a little water because I've been in here stuck. Could you maybe talk a little bit and give whatever perspective you want? So excuse me for a minute. I'm leaving my iPad. If Brad steals my iPad, we know who stole it. But again, breaking news coverage. I'm going to take a 1 minute break and leave you with Brad here and stay with us for the latest. And let me take my mic off for a second.
So, the events that we're seeing today are really absolutely horrific, and it's sad that this has become the new norm in our country and all over the world. We live in a society now that I really believe, based on the actions of the Obama administration and our federal government, our government has sort of set ourselves up for this by enabling ISIS. For instance, we're spending too much time fighting ourselves, and we're not paying much attention to the real threat. And so I think it's way past time that we really start focusing on the serious issues and not all of this crap with Russian hacking. I mean, let's get serious. People are dying every day, and we're talking about Russian hacking because of a bunch of DNC emails and all this stuff. This is crap. It really upsets me. This is one of the reasons that I'm so. Okay, we're getting a report that shots are fired, possibly being fired again now as I'm speaking. I mean, this is absolutely horrendous. The fact that we have to live in a world like this, where we can't even go to an airport or to a school or to a mall and be safe anymore, it's horrifying. I mean, it used to be, not too long ago, we could go out and we felt safe, and we were in a country that was blessed by God, and I still feel that we are, but we really have gotten way off track with a lot of things, and that's one of the reasons that I'm very grateful that we survived this election, because basically we really need to straighten a lot of things out. We need to quit worrying with all this craziness, the things that these networks like CNN and MSNBC and all these hotshot networks that basically only are streamed in airports and, other public buildings. That's the only way they get any viewers. These people, they're full of crap. They're full of, nothing. So basically, we really need to get back onto the real issues and stop this stuff. So let's go back to Steve.
Okay, so Brad, as I was out taking a break, do we need to shift over a little bit?
Yes, we're good.
We good now?
You're good.
Okay, so as I was out there, Brad, I just got an update from Mike out there. So there was a report, I believe from Fox News, that there were more shots fired very recently, and that they're in a garage of some sort nearby, and people were on the ground.
Now, is this the same guy?
Can you pull out? Does your phone have our feed on it?
Yes.
Let's get that, because then I can check Twitter while you're checking your feed, because I want to see what they're seeing from our feed.
I can see on the TV.
Oh no, but I mean from our live feed that they're seeing out there.
Sure,
yeah, cool. Yeah. So yes, and our own Cassie Dillon just tweeted out that a caller on Fox News is reporting more shots are fired at the airport. So thank you, Cassie, for tweeting that.
So does this suggest that there are multiple people?
Multiple shots fired in garage. We're hearing that from Jake too. So that's a great question. We were hearing, and this could be another case where the information you initially get is wrong. We heard lone gunmen, and now we're hearing
as usual.
So the one thought could be that this suggests that there's another shooter somewhere.
Absolutely.
If it's related, again, it could turn out to not be related. We don't know, but maybe it is. And this is also from our own Cassie Dillon, who I guess has been manning the reports and tweeting about it. And she says, caller on Fox News reports, people are told to go back on the ground. There may be another shooter in the garage.
They thought it was over.
Right.
They really kind of maybe they acted too soon.
Maybe
in calling it and saying that it was safe.
Right, because we heard the situation was under control, and I have this is from Casey Hunt's Twitter feed. She's from MSNBC, and she says NBC News affiliate in Florida is reporting Terminal 1 is now being evacuated. People still running from something on tarmac at the Fort Lauderdale airport. That's from Casey Hunt. She says NBC News says the affiliate in Florida says, the NBC affiliate in Florida says, Terminal 1 is now being evacuated, and people still running from something on tarmac. Now, we don't know. Could be a false alarm, could not be, but we're not sure. Let's see. They are moving people out of the terminals. This is interesting, Brad, because I thought that they had already cleared out the airport.
I thought that's what they were doing. I actually saw where they were letting people back in to the airport.
It's very odd.
Doesn't that seem like they're sort of putting, allowing? Are we getting so used to this that because it happens so often that we're saying, okay, it's over now, let's all move back in? Like, in the old days, I think the airport would have been evacuated for probably 24 hours or something.
So there's lots of factors here. I mean, one factor is, were they so concerned with shutting the airport down and like the economic damage or the way that can mess everything up that they were just like, we got to get people back in? Because you'd think one option would be like, look, there was a shooter here. We don't know if they left any luggage with a bomb anywhere. We got to clear out the airport. The garage, I assume some garage at the airport, we're not sure which, is locked down, a parking garage.
So that suggests to me that the shooter is in the parking garage.
Or they think some kind of threat. Look, they could think there's a bomb there. Another thing that sometimes happens is they find like the shooter's car.
Right.
I remember there was a shooting in LA when I was there where the shooter, it was a murder-suicide at UCLA, and then like 3 days later they found the dude's car, and they cleared everybody away from the car because they wanted to open the trunk and make sure it wasn't like explosives in there. So for all you know, they found a car or something.
Absolutely.
I don't know. But this question of, it's a really interesting, I'm surprised to hear that there were people in the other terminals of the airport. I don't run an airport, but it just seems surprising. People are being huddled behind vehicles on the tarmac. Can we get? Wow. Do you have the?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
so
here we are.
Oh, so we're looking right now at what you're seeing over the corner of our shoulder, correct, Brad?
Right.
And this looks like people are on the tarmac.
They're being huddled behind vehicles. So.
Oh my gosh.
Potentially a shooter that has made his way through the terminal and has potentially a clear shot of the tarmac.
If there's some so let's just assume. Let's assume there's a shooter out there. Maybe there's not. It's false alarm.
Hopefully not.
If there is, though, one thought would be, I believe I heard this in one of the Turkey airport attacks, that a strategy could have been to like cause chaos by initial shooting, and then during that initial chaos, somebody can run in.
Right.
I don't know if that happened, but that would be for a way for a shooter to get in.
That would be a diversion tactic.
Right. But
to divert the resources of the law enforcement agencies to one specific target, and then to basically blitz them.
Yeah. Now let's just say, if it turns out that more than one person and shooter is there, that is totally not confirmed. Right. But if it does turn out, then it becomes a much bigger deal.
This is,
and it's tragic either way. It's horrible either way, no matter what it turns out. But that
could lead to a much higher number of.
Yep. Oh my gosh, that's true.
Higher number of deaths.
So
God forbid.
we're just hearing this report. Shots fired from Terminal 2 garage. SWAT entered. And Micah, we know where we got that from, or just we heard it from Fox News. Wow. So hold on a second. So we were told, and
that's why I said that suggested to me the parking garage. SWAT has entered the parking garage now.
Yep.
I'm almost. My judgment says that the shooter is locked himself into the parking garage.
Well, but you say shooter. We had heard a report before that a shooter was in custody.
Right.
So now the question is, was the wrong person in custody, or are there more than one shooter?
Right.
Or these are all things we don't know. And again, as I've said repeatedly, everything that comes out in the first couple hours could turn out wrong.
Let's also think of this. Typically, I don't know how the Fort Lauderdale airport is set out, but normally the parking garage would be in between the two terminals. The original shooting was in Terminal 2, I believe.
Yes.
And then they started evacuating Terminal 1, and now they're talking about they're locking down the parking garage. So do you think that there were possibly a shooter in the first Terminal 2? Then there was one in Terminal 1, and now they've converged onto 2.
That's interesting. It seems like maybe perhaps there was. Well, I don't have I'm going to actually look up a map because you raised this point about the Fort Lauderdale airport, and I'm going to see what it looks like.
Look at the layout of the land.
So, Terminal 1 evacuated and SWAT has entered. Terminal 1 evacuated SWAT. So we have both SWAT entering Terminal 1.
Entirely different terminal now.
Okay, and they entered the garage too. So I'm going to call up a Fort Lauderdale airport map here, Brad. Let's see if I'm going to go to images and see if I can get here. Okay, so Brad, we're not going to show this but we're going to look. So Brad and I are looking at a map here of Terminal 1 and Terminal 2.
They're side by side.
So this map shows them side by side, but it doesn't look like there's a concourse between them.
Right.
But there are garages that connect the terminals.
Right.
You can walk from Terminal 1 to a garage to Terminal 2.
Right.
So, I'm sorry. Well, I don't. For fair use, can I show it or what?
On the.
Yeah, let me see.
Okay, so you can tell me whether I could show this or not.
Yeah.
All right. So if you see, what they're looking at is we were looking at the Terminal 1 and 2. From that map, and I just got that map off the internet, so I can't be sure it's totally accurate, but if that map is accurate, it suggests that there are garages where you could walk from Terminal 2 to Terminal 1 and then go through the garage. So something Brad was saying is, suppose a shooter was in Terminal 2 where it initially happened and they ran away,
Right.
They could run to a garage, and then through that garage they could run to Terminal 1. Police keeping people on ground and not to move, people running on tarmac. And are we seeing that on our feed at all, Brad?
We are.
Oh, wow, this is crazy. So, I'm sorry, Brad, I didn't mean to cut you off. Describe what you see on the...
Basically, what I'm seeing here is...
Which they're seeing, too, on a
total confusion. It looks like they don't know which direction to send them.
This is amazing. I mean, you don't normally see scenes like this.
It almost looks like they really can't find a safe place to put them. To usher people.
And Brad, this is like an hour after the shooting, and we have scenes of people I don't recall ever seeing before. Scenes of American people, or like internationally, people running on a tarmac like this.
Right.
This is incredible. I mean, these are really incredible pictures.
Yeah.
Wow. And so in addition,
they're all over the place.
And what are we seeing in the corner right here?
These are people that
and
are
they
being
still
moved
running
all the way down the runway.
See now this. Oh, we went full.
running
Thank
at
you,
full
Jake.
speed.
Jake went for full. This is amazing. So you're seeing full screen footage here of people running, and they're running in every direction.
They're not even going in the same direction.
This is very disorganized, because if this was organized, this is very odd, because if this normally police wouldn't say run in any direction,
right?
And this suggests that there's kind of a loss of control there.
The police don't even know which way is safe now.
We don't even know if police are telling them to run or if they're just running themselves.
They basically abandoned the aircraft, abandoned the terminals altogether, and now they're just all...
I mean, I can't emphasize enough given that this is an hour after the incident, how chaotic this is.
This is
I am
insane.
stunned to see people just...
So are we looking at maybe possibly more than 2 shooters?
Well, now it could be anything. It could be more than 2, or it could just be 1 and there's bad information.
Right.
We have another update here. People who are covered in blood who have helped people.
Wow.
There are people who have covered in blood who've helped people. We don't know if they were injured or were covered in blood from other people they've helped, but that's why.
Isn't this horrible that we have to deal with this on such a regular occasion now?
Yeah, but you were saying not just terrorists, just shootings.
Just shootings.
Yep, I agree with you. But you're saying this, Brad. I want to get your, because you're saying this as somebody of you own a gun. Are you okay? Well, I should have asked you if I could have said that. But you own a gun,
fine. Go ahead.
but you're not somebody who thinks people shouldn't be allowed to own guns. But so I'm from, I've lived in LA and Boston. These are very anti-gun places generally. But from your perspective, I want to hear your perspective as a gun owner. You still think it's terrible. So what is your perspective on this from that?
Well, I mean, not trying to be funny, but did the shooter know that guns were not allowed in an airport?
Right.
I mean, obviously that's a law. Guns are not allowed in the airport.
Right.
Did somebody not update him with
Right.
that information? I believe, we have some of the most ridiculous laws about guns in general. I mean, criminals do not care about laws. Okay, that's why they're not going to say, "Oh, well, I can't take my handgun into the airport and shoot these people. It's against the law." If there was a person, if there was, sorry, I'm speaking a little too.
Well, I speak very loud.
I'm getting a little excited.
Yeah, that's okay.
But if the laws were, in place to allow lawful handgun owners, people who have not given, any reason as far as to why they wouldn't be able to safely own and to safely handle a firearm, I think it would make perfect sense, especially in the world that we're living in today, if the Second Amendment would be basically if concealed carry, not open carry. I am totally opposed to open carry in many places because it creates a bit of chaos. But concealed carry should be allowed, especially in the world that we're living in the society we're in today. Concealed carry for lawful handgun owners, people with training specifically, should be allowed in places like airports and more places.
And let me interrupt you quickly with a little bit of breaking news here. Oh, and also, I just want to clarify, the opinions that Brad and I say and anybody else we have on here today, these are our personal opinions. So it's not like Right Side Broadcasting is telling you this, but we feel like you like to hear different opinions of people who, probably think similarly to a lot of you out there. And if they think differently, we think it's interesting to hear different opinions.
Let me just say.
Oh, can I just give the breaking news first?
Sure.
So the update we got was that people were sprinting out of the terminal and that the police were also checking everyone and patting everybody down. So that's the latest.
So they don't know who the shooter is.
Oh, that's a very good point. If they're patting everybody now, they think the shooter. If they thought the one shooter was in custody and they were sure of it, they wouldn't be patting everybody down.
Obviously.
Okay.
Cool. There is someone else on the loose, or there's potentially someone else on the loose.
Right.
And they don't know. They're just covering all their bases right now.
Right. And you had another thought, and I want to let you finish your thought. But while you do that, I'm going to check Twitter again and make sure there's no other updates. So finish your thought, and I will check the Twitter while you're doing it.
The only thought I was going to say is, if there was a lawful handgun owner, a concealed carrier in that airport who could have taken down that shooter, there'd be a lot of people right now who would still be alive because of that. There would be a lot less sadness. There would be funerals that would not have to happen. All because some crazy person went in there with a gun. And these laws that are in place to keep people from carrying a gun into an airport clearly don't work.
So I have breaking news. Let me also say, if you have an opinion on this, we have a chat up on the page, right?
Sure.
So feel free to jump in and post on the chat or send us an email.
Right.
What's the email at Right Side? It's I guess we could email me or something.
What is the email for people to send in questions or comments?
We'll get that in a second.
Yeah,
Or they can tweet to us, right?
You can tweet RS RSBN Network.
RSB Network.
RSB
So if you
Network.
tweet to us, we'll get that too. This is very breaking news, and this could be totally false. News Source LA, at News Source LA, they said this. According to Fox News, this is what News Source LA said, Fox News said. Fox News supposedly said the shooter is named Esteban Santiago, possibly with military ID or some sort of badge. So let me repeat that for out there. Unconfirmed. So this is an unconfirmed report, which we think came from Fox News, which I'm getting from News Source LA, that the shooter is named Esteban Santiago, possibly with military ID or some sort of badge. Cassie Dillon, I think she also reports that she saw this somewhere, that she saw on Fox News the report that the shooter is Esteban Santiago, carrying a military ID, motive unknown. And
if that is true,
let's assume it's true that this person has a military ID and their name is Esteban Santiago. What does that suggest to you, Brad?
Well, that suggests that this guy knows what he's doing.
Oh, gun-wise.
Gun-wise,
right.
Exactly. This guy has some serious gun training.
Because military people?
Right.
Do you think we should, I think maybe we should grab Micah and see, can we ask Micah a couple questions?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Micah,
can we grab you for a second? We want to talk to you for a second about, you want to switch with Brad? Okay. So we're gonna bring Mike in for a second because I want to ask him, because I know Micah has some military experience and gun experience, and just ask you a couple questions. So Brad will be back, I hope. So Micah, I will wait till you get your mic on. We can see you. Jay, can we see on the two-shot everything okay? Oh, we're at the footage full, Jake?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And Brad, can we have that phone in there? I just want to see the footage. We can great. Thank you so much. Oh, okay. So sorry for the little bit of confusion. So I just brought in Micah. Micah is a producer here, new producer at Right Side Broadcasting. And Micah, I brought you in because we saw this report. Fox News was reporting that the shooter was named Esteban Santiago, and they had a military ID. So we don't know if that's true yet. But I just want to ask you. So can you give the people a little background about, like, you have a little bit of a military background, and explain, first of all, what's your military background, what's your training with weapons? Could you explain to them that?
Well, besides being a Southern boy and always growing up around weapons, I'm now a second lieutenant in National Guard.
Okay.
I went through ROTC for 4 years. I've had a lot of training with them.
Excuse me while I turn down the volume on
no
this
problem.
so it doesn't. Okay, continue.
Yep. A lot of training with them in regards to weapons and everything like that.
Yep.
So that's the general, yeah.
Okay, so what I want to ask you is someone who has some military background and has some training with weapons, when you hear that this shooter, we've heard, let's assume it's true that they had a handgun and it was one person and that they had a military ID. So we don't have this confirmed yet, but let's assume that's the case. Does that suggest anything to you about this whole situation, like the shooter, the training, anything? Like, what are your thoughts when you hear that?
Well, first would be, there's different types of military ID. You have dependent IDs, you have retiree IDs, and you have active duty military IDs.
Okay.
So when it comes to, they say military ID, well, that could be any one of those three.
Okay, let me stop you for a second. Let me clarify. When you say dependent ID, that means, like, say if my spouse is in the military, I could have a military
Correct.
ID. That's an excellent point. So this person's spouse, say, or relative could have been in the military and they could have an ID from that.
Correct.
So we don't even know, even if it's true they have a military ID, that they're an active member of the military. And you said retired means that they could have been in the military before, but not be actively in the military.
Correct. So
okay.
they issue out retired IDs for, so retirees can get on base and stuff and shop at the commissary and things like that.
Are there military IDs you could have? Like, let's say I work on a military base and I'm not in the military. Could I have a military ID, or at least something that Fox News might thought of?
Yes, definitely. You would have. Depends on what military base you're at, because different military bases have different security measures. Some will just take your driver's license, while others may require you to have an ID for the base, which would look basically just like a military ID, except it wouldn't say, part of the armed services. It would say, civilian or contractor. So
this is really excellent perspective, and I think, if I can toot our own horn for a second, I think when you watch the mainstream media and you watch breaking news coverage like this, they're kind of such in a big rush to, like, do stuff. They don't get into specific details, and if they report military ID, it's like military ID, but this is somebody...
Automatically, they're like Rangers.
Yeah, and there's all these assumptions, and it's good to hear some perspective on, like, well, this could be a lot of different things, and we don't know exactly what it is. So, does what you know about handgun and the fact that this person went into an airport, and they shot. It sounds like they killed 5 people, and they. I'm sorry, just turning off my phone so I don't get constant ringing here. They killed 5 people so far. We think we know that, and that they injured 8 or 9, and they did it with a handgun. Let's assume that's all true. Does that suggest, and I asked Brad this, but I like getting your perspective too, any kind of training, do you think, given your knowledge of guns, or anything about the shooter that you might think?
At least I've been paying attention to the coverage of it, and it seems like it happened at the baggage claim.
Right.
But kind of not necessarily in a really large space. It's kind of a smaller part of the baggage claim.
Okay.
And the thought was that it was actually... there was a group of people kind of around this person all waiting to get their baggage. And so even if I had no training at all and I pulled a gun and started shooting, I'm going to do quite a bit of damage.
Okay, and is this because, so I get that part of it, and Brad was saying this too, is that people are in a group, but is there also something like, suppose the people are in like a corner, some of those baggage areas, it's like, I'm going to draw this, because I feel like in baggage claims, some of them are like, where you have, it's like an S shape. And if you had, say all the people, I'm going to draw an X, say all the people are where this X is in a baggage claim, they have nowhere to go. So is that something, do you think, like if the person were trapped, it would be much easier for like an unskilled person to like just fire longer for more?
Well, definitely. And as we heard, he reloaded. He stopped firing and reloaded. And then, so we don't, maybe he had 2 magazines, 3, we're not really certain. But we do know he reloaded, at least according to eyewitnesses. So it is, if I had no training at all and there were a group of people, say, 15, 20, stuck in this area, and the only way for them to get away was past me, then I could easily just pick them off. I mean, it would, it'd be fish in a barrel, as they like to say.
Does the reloading, as somebody who shot a gun, like has had training with guns, does the fact that they reloaded, that they didn't freak out and be like, oh, I'm shooting all these people and everybody's screaming and run away and there's blood and everything and the cops might be coming, that they sat there, suppose it's true they reloaded, does that suggest to you anything about the training of the person or anything like that?
It can mean 2 things. It can mean 1, training.
Okay.
Or 1, the psychological stance of the person. The person could have been at such a state where everything's blocked out. He has tunnel vision, which happens a lot when you get into these type of emergency situations. Even the people that are victims, they get tunnel vision, run away. And so they may even run right past the guy. And when you get to that kind of a situation, it's called a fight or flight. So you're going to fight, you're going to flight. And so he might have gone into that fight mentality.
This is very interesting. So you're saying, like, in the same way, it sounds like if somebody's shooting at me, I might just, fight or flight takes over and I immediately just think run. He might have gone into, like, a shoot kind of thing going on in there, and that might have happened. So I think we're finding out just from talking to you guys, there's, all this stuff we don't know and all these different possibilities that could have happened. Do you have, and I want to ask you, so you own guns?
I do.
Do you have any thoughts when you see something like this as a gun owner? Do any thoughts come to mind? I mean, just anything about the politics of this or the ramifications or just...
Usually the first thing that comes to my mind is the media is going to spin this to say guns are evil.
Okay.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind usually. The second is, if I would have been there with my weapon, I could have stopped. That's the second thing that comes to my mind. And I'm a concealed carrier. I generally conceal carry everywhere I'm allowed to legally.
And could you explain, for people who might not know, what is concealed carry?
Yeah, sure. So concealed carry is basically, each state has their own different regulations. And you have to go through background checks, and the sheriff has to check off on you and all this kind of stuff. And basically what it does is it allows you to carry your weapon concealed on your person or in your car.
But it has to be concealed if no one can see it, right? You can't have it open.
No.
It has to be not visible.
It has to be not visible.
And some states allow concealed carry. Some states allow open carry. That's where you can carry and people can see it.
And some allow both.
Some allow neither?
Yes, and some allow neither.
Do you, by any chance, know what Florida is?
I know that Florida respects the laws of the state of Alabama in regards to concealed carry. So as a concealed carrier, I can go into Florida. As far as I know, Florida does have a concealed carry weapons permit you can get, but they are not an open carry state. Okay.
So somebody can't just walk around with a gun, supposedly,
unless you're on your private property, hunting.
All right. So I interrupted you when you're making a point. So you started making this point, and you said, look, when I hear this kind of thing as a gun owner, I think that the media is going to spin it as guns are evil. And I'm assuming you think that's a negative thought. You don't like that they're going to do that. Do you want to say a little more about why you think that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the statistics are pretty clear out there when it comes to situations where maybe a concealed carrier is there and a situation arrives. We've heard it a couple times on the news. A lot of times they don't talk about it because it goes into the shock factor and that goes into their ratings. And so if 10 people are killed, well, that makes a lot better headline than if one was killed and it was the guy who was trying to kill people.
Okay.
And that actually happened, I think it was South Carolina or North Carolina. After the Orlando shooting at the club, there was another shooting at a club, or maybe it was a bar, and I think 2 people were injured and one was killed. And the guy killed was the actual shooter because a concealed carrier had actually pulled his weapon and discharged it on the enemy, which is the guy trying to kill people.
So you think that that you're saying that stuff like that doesn't get reported as much as like the stuff as like where people actually get, a lot of people get killed. And you're saying, like you said, like if I was at this kind of thing, your thought is like I could help the situation if I was concealed carry and.
Well, not in the airport because the airport has you're not allowed to carry weapons in the airport.
So you're saying concealed carry, even if I have a concealed carry permit, I cannot go in. You can't. Even pre-security?
Even pre-security.
So I cannot walk in the baggage
claim. They have signs on the door that says no weapons allowed.
Right.
And they are a private or government, doesn't matter. And you have to respect the laws, the wishes of the establishment.
Okay.
Now that depends on states.
Right.
Alabama, it's kind of iffy on that.
Okay.
Florida is you have to respect the law. So I could go into the baggage claim area and they wouldn't know because it's concealed.
But it's still illegal.
But it's still technically illegal.
Okay. And I want to ask Brad, did you have something? You came in? You want to come back in? Or?
Sure, yeah.
All right, so we're going to bring Brad back in. And Micah, thank you for coming in and offer your perspective. That was really cool, and it's great to hear your view of things and your military experience. So we might call you back in here soon to get more perspective. So thanks. And while Micah is switching out, I'm going to check my Twitter again because it's been a little while. And we're going to bring Brad back in here to talk about this and see if there's any more news. Let's see. Okay, I have something new from Conflict News. Okay, so this is from Conflict News at Conflicts. They are a good source for breaking news. Conflict News says Senator Bill Nelson of Florida says shooter identified as Esteban Santiago was carrying military ID. Oh, Cassie Dillon says the TSA says, all right, so Cassie Dillon says confirmed second shooter. Cassie, I'm not sure where you're getting this. I'm sorry, I'm reading your Twitter feed, but thank you for the information. Eyewitness. So Cassie saw somewhere, and I'm not blaming Cassie because she doesn't know that we're reporting this, but just so you know, Cassie saw somewhere that confirmed second shooter, and so that is out there. I have not confirmed it personally, but just so you know, those reports are out there. Getting back to this Governor Bill Nelson report that Senator Bill Nelson of Florida says shooter is identified as one of the shooters at least, identified as Esteban Santiago with carrying military ID. And Brad, I don't know if you heard this, but Micah, so the TSA is now reporting active shooter. Now I see what Cassie quoted the TSA. TSA update active shooter at Florida. So just to get this breaking news out there, the TSA is reporting there is an active shooter now in Florida at the Fort Lauderdale airport, and Brad, we're just going to fix Brad's audio right now, and so this is lots of information coming back. CNN is reporting 5 dead and 13 injured, and we don't know. That's very interesting because we don't know if those are additional injured from the second shooter, or also we don't know if the active shooter is the original shooter, and they don't know the person they said they had in custody wasn't in custody. So we're getting a great job by Jake and Micah running in, giving us new information. As soon as I will say this, we might not have like the biggest budget here, but you're getting information as fast as anyone else because we're giving it to you. We're scouting Twitter and the TV networks and everything, and we are getting it as soon as we can find it. And so, all right, so a lot to take in here, Brad. I think the most important information we just got is that there is an active shooter.
Another one.
Well, another or the original one who they didn't catch, if that's the case. And we saw those people running before. Oh, and I'm sorry, your phone, you can see what we're seeing. So can you just check, Brad, what are we seeing on the live? And we don't, just so you people know, we don't have a monitor here. We're looking on the phone to see what you're seeing on our live feed that we're showing.
Right now, it looks like
Fox News says a second shooter.
Looks like we are looking at a parking lot here.
Sorry?
Not a whole lot of movement. Maybe it's... I honestly can't.
So let's take stock here, Brad.
Right.
When this started, we heard there was one shooter.
Yeah.
We heard it was maybe a random person. we're now hearing confirmation. We're hearing TSA active shooter. We're hearing Fox News second shooter. Now, I will say, just like the stuff in the first hour, this stuff always changes. And it can say 2 shooters now, and then maybe it'll go back to 1 before.
Right.
If it is a second shooter, that's huge in and of itself. And I even want to go back to a second where this thing where they were telling people stuff was okay, and then we saw just chaos on the tarmac. We saw, it looked like about 100 people running in all directions. This was about 10 minutes ago at the airport.
Right.
There will definitely be examination of the whole security responses. And believe me,
sure.
I think cops do the hardest job and these security people do the hardest job, and I'm not blaming anyone. And also situations like this, they've never faced before.
Right.
But the point is to learn from these things and get better. But clearly it's non-ideal when you have people running around. So that's my thoughts on this. What are your thoughts about hearing all this?
Well, I think one thing that we really need to work on is getting back to a nation under God. I think that's something important. But basically, we really need to focus too on, like I was mentioning earlier, as far as carrying laws go. Clearly, these people, they don't respond, like as he was mentioning earlier, the sticker on the door.
Right.
Like as if a private business owner marks a door, marks their business as, basically, they put a sticker on the door, and it's the picture of the handgun with the circle around it and the line through it. And what does that tell a criminal? That says, if I'm a bad guy, or girl, whatever, that the people who actually obey those laws, they're not going to carry their firearm in that business out of respect and for obeying the laws or whatever it may be, the person's request. So that pretty much tells me that this is open season. If I want to go and commit mass murder, I'm going to go to a place that bans guns.
Now, let me say one thing, Brad. Now, I think that's a very interesting point, first of all. I will say somebody might respond to you in terms of airport specifically. They might say like restaurant, they might say an airport.
Sure.
But in an airport, guns are banned, but there's lots of cops running around with guns like that.
So where were they today, is what I want.
Well, now we don't know anything about the Fort Lauderdale airport, what their particular security is like.
Right.
Police are searching the airport. We just have that in. So it's an interesting perspective, and that's one of the questions I think they'll ask about this is what the security was like there. But
not blaming the police,
right.
Obviously.
We don't know. We don't know
blaming law
what
enforcement at all.
happened.
I'm totally for law enforcement.
Right.
I appreciate everything they do. I love and support law enforcement.
And so just so we can say this again at Right Side, we're doing kind of 2 things here. We're bringing you the latest news, but we don't just want to just be sort of just taking stuff from Twitter and giving it to you, or taking stuff from the networks and giving it to you. We also want to be. We think this is what you want, that you also want to hear some different perspectives on what the news coming out is. And so, Brad, you just gave us a perspective where you said, if there are places that don't allow concealed carry and there's a sign on the wall, that can be an encouragement. And perhaps shooters would pick a place like this where they know people can't carry guns, and they would think that's a more appealing target. Now, we don't know this.
When we look in cities, like, for example, like Chicago, they're totally, they ban guns, and we look at the murder rate in Chicago, and it's insane. It is insane. But you look at a place that allows citizens, law-abiding citizens, to carry weapons, whether concealed or open carry, and we look at the murder rates in places like that, and it's minimal. I mean, we're talking about people who obey the laws versus people who are just going to commit a crime because that's what is in their heart and their mind to do. They don't give a, can I say shit?
Probably not, but...
Well, they don't give a crap.
That's better.
If there's a sign on the door or not, okay? If they want to go in and kill someone, they're going to do it. And that's why I think, this whole anti-gun, let's blame guns, it's gun violence, hashtag gun violence. Give me a break.
Well, let me ask you this, Brad. So somebody might say this. They might say, let's suppose it turned out that this shooter or shooters, whatever it is, let's suppose it turned out that they were mentally ill or something like that, or had some kind of criminal background. Okay. How do you feel about background checks where they would make sure that somebody who's mentally ill?
They already do.
So talk talk a little more about that.
Okay, so when you go to apply for whether you're applying for just a regular permit to buy, let's say you're.
And I'm interrupting for 1 second. We have a report from SMSE. Esteban Santiago, who is supposedly a shooter that's in custody, although it's a bit confusing because they say there's an active shooter. But supposedly a shooter in custody is Esteban Santiago, a 26-year-old born in New Jersey, and that's from MSNBC. So back to you. You were saying the question was. I asked about possible gun law background checks for like say people who are mentally ill, and you were saying like they have that kind of thing, and you were explaining what the background check is
in place.
Okay.
And let me just touch on something real quick. Whenever someone says we need more gun laws, we don't need more gun laws. We just need to enforce the laws that are already in place as far as purchasing guns. Now.
And so let me ask you: in what ways do you think are there ways you think they're not enforced well that they could be enforced better?
There could be loopholes in some places, in some areas where certain things are missed, or maybe some things are just maybe things are backlogged, maybe things get looked over. I don't know.
Right.
But there are laws. There are plenty of laws in place now. We don't need any more. We just need to make sure that we're enforcing the laws that are in place now. As far as the background checks go, we don't need to add anything else. Okay. But what I was going to say is that when like in my state, okay, North Carolina, when you go to apply for a pistol permit, there's two types of permits. There is a purchase permit, and then there is the concealed carry permit.
Okay.
Now, the pistol purchase permit, that only allows you to go out and legally purchase a firearm. The concealed carry allows you to not only purchase the handgun, but to carry the handgun concealed. So, but either way, regardless of which one you apply for, they both check your criminal. If you have any type of criminal history, they will find out if you've ever been mentally, if you've ever had any type of issues as far as that goes, like you're saying, and they will find out basically everything. They run the state, the federal, and the.
Now, does this not count gun shows? Because I've heard this thing about like how if you buy a gun show
loophole or whatnot. As far as I am aware, gun shows, they require you to present them with either a purchase permit or a concealed carry permit, which in effect basically means that you've already been vetted. You've been checked. So as far as I know, and I'm not fully 100% informed on those, because I've never purchased at a gun show. I've never gone that route.
That's fine.
But so I'm just letting you know now. I don't know entirely about that, but as far as I know, they do require you to present those identifications, which would basically prove that you had already been checked.
Okay, so now we just got an update that said SWAT teams were stationed outside the terminal. And Brad, real quick, I'm just going to check here on Twitter and see if we have any more updates here about what the latest is. I'm just going through quickly. So I have we have another report that says the TSA says a new active shooter at the airport. Wow. The airport is closed. We do have that. We've seen multiple victims. There were unconfirmed reports of additional shots fired on airport property. So we really don't know what's going on. Can we just check what is in terms of what they're seeing on our feed?
Absolutely.
We have.
So it looks like we've got the feed back up now.
Oh, our feed is up now.
Our feed. Oh, it's been up. But
it's full. You're saying
we've got a full screen now
feed
of what is happening. Looks like we are looking at the parking deck that has been locked down. We are watching what appears to be possibly an ambulance moving past this parking garage. This is a very large ambulance, by the way.
Okay.
This could be multiple injuries.
It's to note this ambulance. If this ambulance would be, I'm seeing it up there too.
Right.
And this is like an hour or so after. What time is it right now? It is. I lost track of time. I'll look at my watch. It's 2:05. So we've been on since about like 12:30 or something.
At least.
But this is really late. If they're picking somebody up, that's a long time since the start of the shooting for this to be happening.
It almost looks to me like they're just still getting in place. That ambulance isn't moving.
So that's a good point. And a lot of times when these kind of things happen, they bring in a lot of ambulances just in case people are hurt.
They stage them for the possibility that they have more injuries.
Right. And now, Brad, if you can take in a second and keep talking about the footage, I'm just going to look here more and see if I can find anything else on Twitter.
Right. So right now, it appears that it appears to me that someone is being transported I don't know who. It could be the shooter,
right?
Or it could be one of the victims.
Oh, because we're now seeing the footage of this ambulance is kind of cruising down the highway. Micah, is it possible? Is there like a police escort? Can you see from that? No, it's just driving, so we don't know.
Yeah,
oh, and by the way, just Cassie Dillon tweeted out about 9 minutes ago. She said, police are searching in victims' garage.
This is a still active shooter situation.
And Cassie said she heard according to scanner of some sort, police are searching for victims in the garage. So it suggests that maybe they think that some people got shot in the garage. Right. So that's a whole... I mean, it seems like what we know is that there's just a lot of chaos there right now. And this is... I will say, this is... As these kind of events go, like when there's shootings, they don't usually last in an active situation for this long. So I remember like the Dallas police one. The shooting was like maybe 15 minutes, and then the dude was in like a garage, and they basically had him barricaded off. So I'm sorry, in terms of what are you thinking?
The shooter possibly had bad planning.
Airport.
The airport security, right.
Yeah, so, and it's interesting. Well, we don't know. One thing that came up is what was their planning for this kind of thing in general, but another thing is the response to it. And it seems like there's been a bunch of chaos after the response. Let me point this out. So I was last year at UCLA in grad school, and there was a shooting on campus, and I was in a class that I was helping to teach when the shooting happened, and we got a text, and the text basically said like active shooter on campus locked down, and it took like an hour. Everybody was locked down because we thought the shooter was active, and it turned out that right after the shooter had come in, shot a professor and shot himself immediately. Wow. But for like 2 hours, the whole campus was like no one knew what was happening, and it's so hard for this. So this information. My point here is that when this shooting initially happened, you have no idea what information initially went out, and it's possible that the info that went out was like, we got the guy.
Right.
And it seemed like people were being.
How would they transmit that information throughout an airport? I understand the network of the university has text messaging, emails, whatnot,
right?
And which has become all too common these days. And as a matter of fact, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time on a campus for one of those alerts to go out. False alarm.
Right.
More than likely.
Oh, okay. So we have a report. Police appear to be relaxing.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. Although things seem to be chilling out a little bit about an hour ago, and then we heard shots in the garage and stuff like that.
All of a sudden, we had the Terminal 1, was it? That was being evacuated.
And people running on the tarmac. And we still don't know. It could. Well, but we heard the TSA said there was a second shooter. But you know what? That could change too. So there's a lot to. And you know what's amazing is that I thought most of what we were going to end up discussing was this terrorism or not. We've been so busy talking about all these developments. Right. We have no idea. It seems like one of the most important questions is, was it terrorism? We have no idea.
Here's what I would say. Regardless if it's ISIS or if it's a domestic person, it's still terrorism.
Okay.
This guy, regardless of if he's affiliated with ISIS or not, it's terrorism.
But we don't, even if it's terrorism, we don't know what cause this might have been, if it's one or two people. The
definition of terrorism, right? It would fit that definition.
Well, assuming that I think if it's literally just a crazy person who shoots for no reason, but assuming there's some reason they did it, and for some cause.
Islamic terrorism.
And it could be Islamic, but it could be something else. I mean, we've also seen anti-government terrorism.
Yeah.
Like the Oklahoma City bombing years ago. For all you know, this was two people or one person who just said,
terrorism. It's safe to say that.
But it seems it's attacking, when you attack an airport, I mean, I'm no expert. It seems to me you're attacking like infrastructure and like government and these kind of things.
There's a reasoning behind that, for that in his mind, for sure. Yeah.
Right. So this is going to be very interesting to see. Now, I think we should address the speculation. I'm guessing some people on the internet are saying Esteban Santiago, that means he's not a Muslim. And that means he's not. We don't know what he was.
We don't know. He still could be related. I mean, he could still have ties to ISIS.
He could be Muslim. He could not be Muslim. He could have ties to ISIS. He could not have ties to ISIS. We don't know. So, but don't draw conclusions from the name, is what I'm saying.
I don't know what the criteria calls for to have ties to ISIS.
Well, eventually we find out.
If you have to be Muslim or not, I would assume so.
That is an excellent point too, Brad.
I don't know.
There could be somebody who, this is very interesting, they could not be Muslim, and they could have gotten really into ISIS and gotten into really anti-American government stuff.
It could just be that they're so opposed to the American
government
or whatever it is that they basically act on behalf of ISIS, maybe, or something. Maybe they're not affiliated at all. Who knows?
Now, I took a look at my Twitter feed recently, and it looks like for about the last 10, 15 minutes, there's no real new developments. That suggests to me that
Check out the YouTube.
not much is happening. Oh, well, let's check out our feed and get that up.
Chat. Can we go to the chat?
Here we go.
Can we go to the chat?
Yes, we will. If I can get it on my iPad, Brad, we will.
Yeah, you can.
Sorry, let me. So I'm just so you know, I'm closing my YouTube and opening it again, so I can open up our feed that we're getting and maybe open up and see some of your comments here. That would be great if we could do that.
We're seeing a lot of police activity still.
Okay. Oh, so we have it looks like. Is this us? No, this is not us.
No, that's definitely not.
That's somebody ripping off a feed. Oh, I'll go to RSBN. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let's see. I got RSBN up. If people want they know where to find us because they're watching it. Here, this is us.
Yep.
Okay, now I have us. We're seeing lots of police in the corner.
We are.
Okay, and Brad,
Does it look like they've almost... What are they? I guess they've just surrounded the area.
So now Fox is reporting reports on second shooter may have been panic. And what's amazing about this is we have the TSA tweeting out active shooter. The TSA didn't say maybe an active shooter. They said active shooter.
Let me ask you this.
What?
Why is the first thing that they do is concern themselves with tweeting?
Well, how about tweeting accurate information if it's not accurate?
At least, if you're going to go out of your way to tweet in chaos like this, at least make it accurate.
And if you don't know for sure, say possible active shooter.
Like
Just one extra word.
If I were involved with this situation,
and so we just got another information. We got more information here. It says active shooter situation still in effect.
Still in effect.
But we don't know. Does active shooter situation? What does that mean?
Right.
You know, it could be illegal.
Okay. Well, let's just assume that it means that there's still a possible active shooter. But if I were working at the TSA in this airport, I think the last thing I would be concerned with right now is tweeting. Okay.
They might think if people want information and they're just going to go to their phones and look up TSA or something like that. Because the TSA is not at the airport.
But who is going to be in the airport and say, "Oh, I hear gunshots. Let me check my Twitter account." Like, give me a break.
If people I will say this. You know, when I was at UCLA in that shooting situation where you thought it was active shooting.
I understand.
But you think in the airport they're just going to be running away?
Yeah, right. I think in the
my big thing is make it accurate. You're a government organization.
Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I think in the universities it is smart to have. First of all, they have the alarms, the audible alarms.
Right.
Then they have the emails and the text messages that go out, and then maybe Twitter last.
Right.
Okay. But let's not start using social media as a way to inform people of emergencies that are basically...
Well, are you okay with them using social media in addition to other things like going on TV and stuff?
In addition.
Okay, you don't want them exclusively tweeting.
It doesn't need to be like one of the first things that you use.
I gotta say, this might seem like a minor thing, but if it turns out that the TSA tweeted something that's not true, someone should get fired over that. That's like a big deal. That's the TSA. That is the government organization responsible for security in airports. And we might find out that they tweeted out something false.
Right. And I would say, if you're a news organization or someone like that, just tweeting out, what was the story? What did they even tweet? Active shooter.
They said I think second shooter or active shooter or something. Active shooter situation. That's what they said.
Active shooter situation.
Yeah.
They took the time to tweet that. Okay, so basically, if it's a news organization, that's okay. They tweet that it's an accident. We got the wrong information. Sorry. We will fix it. But it's the TSA. I mean, this is the government. This is a branch of, this is a government agency.
And that will undermine trust. If it turns out that's false, that undermines trust in government, by the way.
And it undermines their Twitter.
Oh, so the TSA is saying, according to information we have, that active shooter is still in effect, shelter in place. You know what I hate about this active...
Can I trust the TSA at this point?
Well, I don't know. But also, here's a problem. This term active shooter is like this legalistic term sometimes nowadays. An active shooter can mean like... I'm guessing it can mean we think there might be a shooter and we're not sure. But the problem is when people hear active shooter, they think somebody's actually confirmed 100% shooting.
Right.
And so to me...
Most people,
I mean, but I just think unless they are sure 100% that there is somebody with a gun who is shooting people...
I don't know. I have to disagree with that because...
They could say possible active shooter.
But that kind of... You want the sense of urgency. You want people to get out of there, and you want people to take shelter in a safe place. I think it's okay to use until you know for a fact, 100% without a doubt, that there is not a shooter anymore.
Right.
I think it's okay to use the term active shooter.
But then the problem is you have the effect of like the crying wolf, whereas the next time people like you could say possible active shooter, evacuate as soon as possible.
No, I see. That's not possible. It's not a possible active shooter if the person has already started shooting.
Oh, well, I guess my point is,
So we're saying
there might not be a shooter there right now, and I'm talking about I'm saying suppose right now the TSA has heard there might be an active shooter and they're not sure.
I see.
They shouldn't be saying active shooter if they don't 100% know.
Okay, I understood.
Hey, Brad, we got the chat room up here. I just want to look through with you and see if there's anything here. We have somebody saying there's another victim in Terminal 1. Again, this is all from our chat, so it's not confirmed. Thank you for chiming in and letting us know what you think. We have somebody saying, I'm sorry. We have somebody saying the TSA does not have weapons. How stupid is that? We have somebody saying. So we have lots of different stuff here. I would encourage you, if you're watching us on YouTube. Go to open up the chat room and look at the chat periodically, because this is where you guys can talk to us and also talk amongst yourselves. I mean, part of Right Side is bringing you guys together and letting you discuss things amongst yourselves and with us and come to your own conclusions about things. So it's a community here with us and you, and so we're doing this for you. That's why we came on today. It wasn't it wasn't like we have to do this. It's like we think that you want information from another. You want another option for your breaking news coverage, and you don't want all the stuff on the mainstream media that can be really superficial or biased or whatever. And so we like bringing you a different perspective on this. So, okay, so I have our feed up here right now, and I'm seeing what you're seeing right now. And wow, this is really amazing that we're seeing this people on the tarmac right now. And Jake, that was a live shot, right? This is a live shot, that feed? Yeah, so boy, oh boy. So I gotta say, I'm pretty, I don't use the word surprised and stunned a lot, but I'm pretty surprised and stunned by these pictures we're seeing now. So we have lots of people. Hey, Jake, is there any way to go full on this? Sorry to throw this at you right now, but I'm about to, I think this footage is so kind of crazy. Thank you, Jake, so much. I mean, this is pretty incredible, people. So this is I gotta say, probably an hour and a half or 2 hours after this first started. And we have a tarmac, it's basically full of people, and they're sitting by their luggage, and they seem kind of they're just sitting there on a hot tarmac and they're not being evacuated, and it's they don't really know what's going on for all I know. I mean, it's kind of chaotic, and imagine that you were on a flight. You're sitting on a plane about 10 a.m. this morning or 11:30 or whatever it is, and then they rush you off the plane onto the tarmac, and now it's an hour and a half or 2 hours later, and you're sitting there, and some of these people have their bags, so maybe they came from inside. I mean, I can't imagine what that's like, and it certainly doesn't seem like everything is all cleared up, at least in the authorities' opinion. This is an incredible shot. We have a huge area of tarmac with people just standing on it. So wow, and another wow is that we have no idea why these people did this, whoever did this, and it could be terrorism. Oh, thank you, Jake. So Jake has blown that up a bit. That's pretty incredible. And again, in my experience, you usually don't see these things go on for this amount where, it's not like we haven't heard that there's a hostage situation or anything. We just heard that there was a shooter, and we still have all this going on in the airport. That's really amazing. That's amazing footage. So let's take stock again. There's been this shooting that happened. Let's go back. If you just joined our coverage, and we have somebody running on the tarmac there. So about an hour and a half ago, or 2 hours ago, we started seeing reports here at RSBN on different news media outlets that there was a shooting at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport, and this is in Florida. We got initial reports of people killed and injured. I guess now it's up to, from the last report I saw from CNN, 5 killed, 8 taken to hospitals. We have reports that a shooter named Esteban Santiago with a military ID is in custody. We have some reports that there might be a second shooter. We have some reports that the second shooter situation might be active. We have reports that that some of the shooting, at least some of it, took place in the baggage area of Terminal 2 of Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport. We heard that Terminal 1 was evacuated. We heard reports of shots fired in one of the garages at the airport. We're not sure. We heard reports of SWAT teams going into the various terminals of the airport and the garage. The airport, as far as we know, is closed. No flights in or out. Flights being diverted. So this is really the latest information. And as I've said before, and I'll say repeatedly, in the first few hours of this breaking news stuff, it's like stuff can change. So, I mean, consider this all not really confirmed until like you wait a few hours and you see. But what we don't know, so that's what we do know, or what we think we know. We don't know how many shooters there are exactly. We don't know why they did this. We don't know if this is terrorism or not. And if it is terrorism, of what sort? That's a really important question. Another thing now that just occurred to me, and this will be interesting. So a lot of times when there are terrorist attacks, especially on foreign soil, you can go online and find like closed circuit footage of the attack. So this definitely, I know I've seen this in Turkey terrorist attacks. I believe I saw it in the Belgium attack. And this can be graphic footage, so I'm not encouraging you to watch this if it's graphic, but it would not surprise me. I have to say it's at least highly possible that this footage exists, because I'm sure there's cameras at that airport. I feel like in America they don't really release that footage very commonly, but it's certainly something to watch out for. Does this footage get out there if it exists? Will you see it? If it's not publicly released, perhaps you can go find it online at a certain site or not. One site I find that's good about having footage on is called LiveLeak. These days I believe it's liveleak.org, but it might be a different website or address at this point. And I'm not encouraging you, like, if you like gore, look at footage. But I personally think that footage of like what happens in terrorist attacks and what happens in, say, ISIS attacks and what happens in war, I think there is a value to people seeing it, because it shows you how bad this stuff is and it shows you what really happens. And you can, for example, read a story that like ISIS posted a video where they burned a Jordanian Air Force soldier alive. You can read that story. But if you go, that's a video I actually watched, and man, if you watch it, it is awful, and it's so much worse to actually watch it. Fox News is reporting there will be a news conference soon, so hopefully we'll get more information on that, and as soon as they have that news conference, we will tell you what they say. So my point here is, though, that if there is footage of this out there, there's certainly negatives to having it out there, because like, it's awful to see people that are Americans and other people killed, and maybe their relatives see it. But I also think that it does emphasize the awfulness of these things. And when we sanitize things, like I'm against when we sanitize, like if our soldiers get killed, we sanitize that. We don't allow war footage, and we don't allow footage of coffins, or we don't allow footage of what goes on in Iraq or wherever else, because I think bad things happen to people, and bad people do bad things to people, and there's nothing like seeing it to really convey how awful these things are. So that's just something to keep in mind today, is will there be footage of this that comes out? And obviously that footage, I'm guessing law enforcement would look at it to see what went on. But man, and we're seeing a wide shot right now, so we have the footage up, and I'm seeing what you're seeing, and we're seeing a motionless Fort Lauderdale Airport. There's nothing going on. That's a big American airport, middle of the day. There's no cars coming in or out. It looks like if you had your car parked there, it's just there. Wow. So those are really incredible pictures that we're seeing. And this terrorism thing, I mean, what do we know about that? I'm guessing there's some speculation. So if I wasn't reporting to you right now, and I was just on Twitter right now or on Reddit or whatever looking this up, I am guessing there would be people speculating about this Esteban Santiago and what would that mean. And I am guessing there's people who'd be saying like, I know there's people out there saying like, ha ha, it's not Muslim, or ha ha, it's not ISIS, or wait, it'll come out that this person really is ISIS and the name's wrong. Or I don't know. We don't know anything at this point. We don't know if there's a second shooter. So hold off on drawing your conclusions until we know more information. Another thing is, and going over the information we heard that we haven't talked about, supposedly this was a handgun, and supposedly it was in the baggage claim of an airport. And I want to take a second, because there's been so much going on, to speculate about, if this turns out that it was a terrorist attack at an airport in the baggage claim, what might happen? And it's possible they might say, like, you can't go into the arrivals area or the departure area within. Here's the problem. They might say you can't go into like a baggage claim area, or you can't go into the ticketing area. Like when you get to the airport, you go to that ticketing area and nobody checked your security. And they might say, well, you can't go there until you've passed security. So the idea would be like, instead of having ticketing area, then security, they would have security, then ticketing area. The problem with that I've read about is if you move the security outside the ticketing area, then people will just attack the area outside security that's farther from the ticketing area. So let's say there's an area before the security, they'll just attack that. So I'm getting a report that they're still searching the terminals. So this is not totally under control there. But it's not like there's a really, like one option. The option of just saying we're going to do security and move it to before the ticketing area isn't exactly like the greatest option, just because. So now can't they just like blow up the road outside the security area? So, and as I'm sure you've experienced if you've gone to airports recently, not easy to get in and out of airports. And every time you make security better at airports, or make people do more stuff, you're talking longer delays. And there's lots of delays as it is. So this is a problem, and this is it's like I hate to say it, but it's an easy target for terrorists, because if terrorists want to disrupt, whether or not this was a terrorism, this case, terrorists want to disrupt economies. At least a lot of them do. And if you have a couple terrorist attacks at airports and you say make everybody wait an hour or 2 hours longer at the airport every time you go, think about how many millions of people go in a year or just in a day to American airports. And if you make every person take 1 hour out of their life longer at an airport that's going, think of how many man hours that's lost. That's time that people could be doing other stuff that they could be working. And think of the economic cost of that over time. That's a huge economic cost. So I think we've been fortunate. I mean, unfortunately, we're a free society and there's a lot of soft targets out there. And you can't protect everything, with armed guards everywhere. Now we might say, well, maybe concealed carry can help with that and stuff. But I'm sorry. There's a news conference. Jake, can we get the audio on that? So we're going to the news conference now, correct, Jake? Yes. Okay. So I'm throwing to the news conference. I'll listen in. People could be doing other stuff that they could be working, and think of the economic cost of that over time. That's a huge economic cost.
Well, we have one of the more critical pieces of information is we have the shooter in custody. He's unharmed. No law enforcement fired any shots. The subject is being interviewed by a team of FBI agents and Broward Sheriff's Office homicide detectives. There's been incredible cohesiveness and cooperation between the Broward Sheriff's Office, the FBI, FDLE, and all the local law enforcement entities. We'll answer your questions at the end. We'll answer your questions at the end. At this point, I'm going to put the director of the airport on to tell you about what's going on at the airport. Then you'll be hearing from the SAC, Mr. Piro. Then I'll come back to answer questions.
Thank you, Sheriff. As the Sheriff said, my name is Mark Dale. I'm the airport director here at the Fort Lauderdale International Airport. When the incident occurred, we responded. Many of you know that we've suspended operations at the airport for the time being. We're working together with all the law enforcement to address all the needs and concerns of the passengers that are inside the building and on airplanes right now. They are all sheltered in place. We're not sure exactly when the airport will reopen for operations. We're going to work together with all the law enforcement that's here, our airlines, and all the other agencies before we actually move to reopen up the airport. But in the meantime, as the Sheriff has indicated, we're just going to go step by step, methodically through the building before we take any steps to reopen operations. We'll keep everybody informed as best we can through social media and our airport website as to when that may occur. And we'll also be setting up a hotline for families or friends that may be looking for folks that they haven't been able to reach in contact with, and we'll also publish that in the relatively near future, again on our hop site and out through the website and through social media. That's all I have for now.
Good afternoon. My name is George Piro. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI's Miami field office. As the sheriff mentioned, the FBI is working very closely with the Broward Sheriff's Office, supporting their ongoing efforts here at the airport. We're working jointly, doing all of the witness interviews as well as the suspect interview. The investigation is very early. We have a lot of preliminary information that we are going through, but at this point our role is to actively support the Broward Sheriff's Office until we make a determination on the nature and the motive of this. Thank you.
We've heard about a shooting in Terminal 1. What can you tell us about that? Just refer to the
At this time, there's been no shooting in any place else but at the downstairs of Terminal 2. There's no confirmation of any shooting. As a matter of fact, at this point as I speak, the only gunshots fired at any time during this horrific incident have been downstairs in Terminal 2.
What happened at Terminal 1? That everyone was evacuated. People said they heard shots upstairs.
It seems like somebody got injured evacuating, nothing to do with any type of gunshot or anything like that.
Light truck operator heard shots after the initial lone shooter at the other terminal. He heard shots directly behind him inside the parking lot.
We've had no confirmation of that. We have law enforcement personnel, both federal, state, and local, throughout the airport. No law enforcement this time has confirmed that there's been any gunshots other than was fired in Terminal 2.
We also saw someone being arrested. Is there another person possibly involved?
Not in the shooting aspect of it. We're reviewing tapes. If someone was arrested, it might be for a plethora of things. But to my knowledge, no one was taken into custody. People could have been secured in handcuffs until we found out who they were, what they were, and how they were related or not related to this scenario. So I don't know if they were physically arrested or not, but there's been no happened around the baggage area.
Any information as to why?
One suspect only in custody. We're not releasing any information on that suspect. Yes, sir.
Are you able to say what kind of weapon was used in the shooting
No.
in Terminal 2?
No.
Was it an automatic? Was it a semi-automatic?
We're not going to comment.
Was there a struggle while...
When we apprehended him, the subject was arrested without incident.
Any motive?
I don't know.
Does it appear that the shooter was waiting for somebody to arrive and with the baggage and then ambushed them?
We're at the very beginning of the investigative stages. That's what this is all about. That's why at this point the lead on the investigation is with the Broward Sheriff's Office. If we do uncover at some time that this was related to any type of terrorist or terrorist activities, then the FBI will have complete incident command of this, and we'll be assisting the FBI as we move forward with the investigation. I want to say, this is not the time for anybody to call 911 on this incident. We're all over here. If you have a real emergency, of course, but if it has involved you, please keep the 911 lines open. And if you need information, you can follow us on Twitter at Sheriff. Yeah. At Broward Sheriff. Twitter at Broward Sheriff.
Sir, have you been able to identify any vehicle at the airport that might belong to the shooter?
Not at this time, not to my knowledge.
So at this point, there doesn't appear to be a terrorism indication at all, or too early?
No, it's too early to say either way on that. That's what's going on right now.
The baggage area where they were coming from, where were those people coming from? Where were they? Do you know? What flight were they there?
I do know what flight, but we're not releasing any information until we can positively identify the victim. Give it a
Airline it was?
no.
Can you say victims were men, women, or children?
No, we're not
Do
going
you
to.
think this guy acted alone?
At this point, it looks like he acted alone.
Were they part of a family?
Yes, at this point, there's no second active shooter. There are no victims suffering for any gunshot wounds. We heard that information as well. It's not confirmed, and right now we're dealing with this incident right here.
Can you tell us what was going on in the parking garages that had agents, guns drawn, looking for something?
I'm sure they were looking for, clearing parking lots. We have a variety of SWAT teams out and assets out clearing the entire airport to make sure it's safe. So just doing their job, working very hard and diligently.
Mr. Daly? It's Friday afternoon. About how busy was the airport? Is this the busiest it is during the week, given that it's Friday afternoon, sort of the height of tourist season?
The airport's always very busy. We're one of the fastest growing airports in the country. Again, the terminals are very full right now. Our passengers are sheltered in place. We'll be working with law enforcement to actually get them released systematically, as the sheriff has indicated, as they proceed with their they're in duty.
Do you have any idea how many people are secured either across the runways, in the terminal, on the plane? Any estimate as to that number?
Right now, we actually have everybody in either at the terminals, or we've had some airplanes that have landed, that we still have airplanes with people on board that have landed that have not been brought into the terminal building. It's possible that those airplanes may actually depart and not actually come into the terminal building. But on any given day, we typically handle between 80 and 100,000 passengers coming through the facility.
So people who are on planes now may not be able to get off? Is that in your way?
That's a possibility that we're working with the airlines that some decisions may be made. It hasn't been confirmed yet that they may actually depart for other cities. We're going to go through the terminals, again, very slowly and methodically to make sure everything is clear before we make any decisions about releasing additional passengers into the building on top of those that are already still in the facility.
How many were in that Terminal 2 when you initially?
I don't have that information.
Do you know how many were in the baggage area?
I don't have that information. Typically in the baggage claim, there could be hundreds of people at any one time, but I don't know what the number was at that particular moment in time now.
And how many planes have landed and not allowed to disembark?
I don't have the number of those that are on the ground right now.
Where can passengers get that information? Are you going to put that on your website?
We're going to put information out through on our website and also on Twitter at FLL Flyer.
Sheriff Israel, can you give us a timeline? When, to your knowledge, do you know, did the shooting begin? How long was the shooter at large? Where was he inside the terminal? I mean, how extensive was the
And where's he being interrogated?
As I said before, it happened just before 1 o'clock. We're not going to give out any specific information about the logistics.
Well,
and as I
what
said
time was he
before,
apprehended?
shortly thereafter, almost immediately after the shootings. He was apprehended by a Broward Sheriff's deputy, and he was taken into custody without incident.
Sheriff, did the gunman check the weapon into his luggage on an Air Canada flight and then fly here, land, take the weapon out, go in the bathroom and load it?
As I said before, that's all part of an ongoing investigation. I haven't gotten that far. All I know is the gunman is in custody. He's being interviewed by a team of FBI agents and Broward Sheriff's deputies. And at the time, once we establish motive and the investigation continues and we find out what that motive is, then myself and Mr. Pirro, the director SAC of the FBI, will make a decision as to who takes the lead on the continuing investigation.
Sheriff, did any of your deputies fire their weapons at this parking garage? Is that possibly what we heard? What did we hear?
I don't know what you heard, but there's no confirmation of any type of gunshot anywhere but at the time of this horrific incident.
Sheriff, can you say if the gunman was a airline passenger, or did he come in at the arrivals area?
I believe I know that information, but it's not something we're going to release at this time.
Can you say where he's being interrogated?
Where he is right now? I'm not sure where he's right.
Sheriff Israel, if there was no other viable threat, a second threat, why would the airport be closed after the first person was arrested and being interrogated? Why shut down the airport?
As I said, we can't say there's no viable threat. We have to clear the airport. It's just a common sense approach. My concern right now, not only with the families of those who are lost, but my concern is with the citizens of Broward County. And until myself and the director of the SAC of the FBI, until we believe that this airport is a safe place and people can move about, it won't be open.
Last question.
Excuse me, Amy?
How many deputies at the airport at the time of the shooting?
I'm not sure. Thank you very much. Please follow us at Broward Sheriff on Twitter.
Can you just say what caused the evacuation? Again, it's what
I'm not sure.
Okay, so we're back here. If you've been watching, you just saw that press conference about the Fort Lauderdale airport shooting, and very cool that we here at RSBN can bring you that press conference. So don't think if you watch our breaking news coverage you're not going to get stuff like that, because you're going to get that live feed of that press conference, and then also we'll come back here and give our coverage to you. So I want to summarize what was said at the press conference, and I also want to say for those of you looking for information online, there is now what's called a Reddit live thread. What a Reddit live thread is when there's a big event, a few people will set up like a site where where they just post the latest news stories, but it's moderated. It's not like anybody can comment, and it's a really good site, good way to get the latest information on something. And the way to find this thread is if you search for like Reddit airport shooting live, there'll be something that comes up that says shooting at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport live Reddit. Click on that and you'll get this feed. And from this thread, they did a nice job summarizing what the press conference said, so I just want to go over that with you. The press conference that we just saw said 5 dead, 8 wounded, no info on who the victims are, which is awful, and our sympathies again at Right Side go out to everyone affected by this awful, tragic event in Fort Lauderdale. The press conference also said there's no movement allowed into or out of the airport until the all clear given. They also said the one shooter is in custody. He is unharmed. He is being interviewed by the FBI and the sheriff. So the press conference was very clear on this. They said there's only one shooter. There's not more than one shooter. There's no one out there hiding out or whatever, which is a bit odd because the TSA sent out a tweet about there being an active shooter situation. But forget about that for now. One shooter, the shooter's in custody. They're not harmed. The press conference also said a ground stop, so they're not allowing any flights to take off or move or go in or out of the airport, will remain in effect until all clear is given. And so this explains why you're seeing these pictures of the plane sitting there and all these people on the tarmac. Everything just at the airport has come to a halt. You can't leave and you can't get in or out. And they're just basically holding everyone in place, doing their searches and whatever. The press conference to say again, no second shooting, only shots. The only shots were from the suspect in Terminal 2. Now, one of the reporters at the press conference said, like, hey, what about that report we heard of shots in the garage, which we were reporting here because we heard it from people like about a half an hour ago, but the police said, we don't know anything about that. That's not confirmed. As far as we're aware, no shots in the garage. And as I've said before, whenever breaking news happens, a lot of what you hear in the first couple hours will turn out to be false, even if it's from really reputable sources. Gosh, I remember when the Turkey coup happened a few months ago, NBC News reported that the president of Turkey, Erdogan, was on a plane fleeing and he'd asked to I think he asked to land in Britain and they weren't letting him land there or something. And this was NBC News and it all turned out to be false. So take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Continuing with what the press conference said, no second shooting, no confirmation of shooting in parking garage, one suspect only. He's in custody. Suspect arrested without incident, which is very interesting. Arrested without incident suggests that they arrested the suspect and the suspect wasn't resisting arrest or firing back, because that would be an incident. So that's kind of confusing, and we'll have to see what happens there. And again, I'm getting this from the Reddit Live update page about the shooting at Fort Lauderdale, which is a very great resource to use. Continuing on what the press conference said, right now, the Broward County Sheriff's Office is taking the lead. No indication of terrorism at this point, but too early to tell. Let me repeat that. No indication of terrorism at this point, but too early to tell. So they don't know. I'm assuming they will do things like get this person's background, see if they left any notes in the apartment. There's all this, look at what they were surfing on YouTube, or not just YouTube, on the internet, go through that person's internet connection and their records if they can get them. So go through that person's phone. So all this stuff has to be done. We'll see what happens there. Next up, airport manager in the press conference said, the airport manager said, some flights may take off to move to other airports to disembark passengers. Wow. This is to be decided by the airlines and the FAA. No movement right now. So it sounds like there are airplanes at the tarmac which either landed there or hadn't taken off, and they're not letting passengers out of planes. Okay, this is really interesting. So this maybe suggests that the people you see on the tarmac weren't in planes, and maybe they came from the airport itself and they ran out onto the tarmac. And that, wow, think about this. There could be people who were on these planes, maybe who even finished their flight. I'm guessing there were some flights that had just landed and they were taxiing to their gate, and the people have just flown from who knows where, and then they get there and they've just been sitting on their plane for several hours now. So that's going on. And what else do we have? We have... okay, let me just check Twitter real quick and see if they're saying anything new, but we're caught up from the press conference, it seems like. So if you go to, this is incredibly interesting. I am going to show you, Jake, can I show a tweet from News Source LA that supposedly shows the photo of the suspect being taken into custody with the yes. Caveat? Okay. Oh, we have a report that the suspect flew in from Canada, from Fox. Okay. So we have a report that the suspect flew in from Canada. I don't know if that means they're from Canada or they were returning from Canada.
Had a checked gun.
Had a checked gun in their baggage. Wow, and we don't know. But does this mean that they used the checked gun did they use this gun or another gun? We don't know. But so Jake gave us that update. I want to show you now. Quickly, this is a photo that I just got on News Source LA, and I'll show it to you briefly, and I'm going to tell you where to get it if you want it. They are at newssourcela.com, and this is, not .com, it's at News Source LA, at News Source LA. They have this tweet, and it says, breaking, unconfirmed photo of Fort Lauderdale shooting suspect being taken into custody. I'm going to show you this now briefly. It's unconfirmed. Go to News Source LA if you want to see it yourself. This is very brief. Jake, I'll try to do this so it's in frame.
I'll see if I can bring it up.
So that's what it looks like, and I don't want to keep it up there for that long because for all I know it's not accurate. But anyways, if you want to see that photo, go to at News Source LA, all one word, and that is an unconfirmed photo. Although I will say, now I have no idea if this photo is accurate or not, but I will say I remember similar photos when the person at the Trump rally a few months ago made threatening movements toward Trump. They had photos of that person being taken away, and it turned out that those photos were accurate. So it could be an accurate photo, could not be, but it's an interesting. I don't even know if it's from the airport, to be quite honest. But that's just something that I saw posted. Oh, okay. We have. Can I show? Thank you. So you have that up there. So that's from News Source LA. Now, Jake. I'm sorry, Jake. I just saw a tweet from Joe Biggs with supposedly a picture of Esteban Santiago. Can we show that tweet on air, Jake? Are we allowed to do that?
See if we can find it.
Okay. So can I show it while you're looking? Or should I wait? Okay. So I'm going to show you this. Joe Biggs, who many of you know, who has been a reporter for InfoWars, Joe Biggs, and he's at Rambo Biggs. He just tweeted out 6 minutes ago. His tweet says, "This is the shooter from today. Apparently they are calling him a white Hispanic." And now I'm going to show you the photo of him. And again, this is a alleged photo of him. I cannot confirm this. We can't confirm this. And this is from, it says Florida Department of Law Enforcement on the photo, but I can't claim it's accurate. So this is the photo. Oh, and now Jake, you have it up there. Great work, Jake. So I don't even have to show it to you from my iPad. That's from Joe Biggs' Twitter feed. And again, Joe Biggs at Rambo Biggs, he says this is supposedly the shooter from today. Apparently they're calling him a white Hispanic. So take everything with a grain of salt. But again, look, we're giving you this stuff as up to the minute as we get it. And I just want to say again, I defy you to get information really any faster on any other network, even though it's a big multi-billion dollar, whatever it is, media network. We're giving you this information super fast. And I think we're even giving you it sometimes faster. Because see, what we do here, and I follow a lot of breaking news, so I know this. When you follow breaking news, the networks are kind of conservative a lot of times because they don't want to get, they want to be like 100% sure, but they don't even want to say like, we heard this. And I think it could be, they don't want to say like, we've heard this on the internet. And I think as following lots of breaking news, you get a lot of news really fast that way. Like, I remember when the Turkey coup happened, I knew about it half an hour faster on Twitter than I knew about it on the major news networks. So what we do here is we present you the stuff really fast, but we also say this is unconfirmed. We don't know. So please know, if we show you a photo of somebody and say, this is the unconfirmed photo of the shooter, we really mean unconfirmed. And believe me, it could turn out that this is not the person. And so that's the danger of showing unconfirmed stuff. So look, we're not saying it's confirmed. We want to present you with the latest information that we're getting. And we think, part of that information is stuff that might not be confirmed yet. And a lot of it might turn out to be confirmed and a lot of it not. So as our agreement, we'll show you this information and say it's unconfirmed, and we'll show it to you earlier in a lot of cases than the major networks will. But just be critical about it and just know that when we say unconfirmed, it's unconfirmed. Okay, I'm continuing to look at my Twitter feed, and I'm seeing, Jake, it looks like we're seeing a picture on the footage of, that's the airport, correct, Jake? And people still on the tarmac, am I right? Wow. And so from the press conference, if you didn't hear the press conference, they basically said no in, no out of the airport. Until we search everything, no one's coming in, no one's going out. And man, I'm just seeing, that's incredible. And let me say again, this is Florida. I'm going to look up the Fort Lauderdale temperature today and tell you what the temperature is there. I got it here on my iPad. Temp, it is, let's see. It's 77 degrees. So, if you've ever been to like an airport that has like sort of an open tarmac that you could see, it's hot. It's like, imagine standing on your driveway, which gets very hot. That's an airport tarmac. It's just hot. There are people who I think it looks like have been standing on that tarmac in the sun, no shade. It has to be 3 hours now, at least 2 hours. I don't even know if they have water out there. So that's really a bad situation. So so hopefully that all gets settled soon. I'm looking right now real quick at the Reddit live feed and seeing if they have anything new. Nothing new on Reddit live right now. And I'm just looking briefly at Twitter just to check if there's anything else I can tell you about that's new. Broward County Sheriff has just posted, please do not call 911. So I guess they want to keep that line clear if you're down there somewhere. So at least for the moment, we're not getting any new news. And so let's talk for a second about that update we got recently that Fox was reporting that this person flew in from Canada. Wow. So if they flew in from Canada, what could that mean? I mean, just off the top of my head, I have to think it's unlikely that a Canadian citizen would fly here to do a terrorist attack. Although, I mean, is it possible that someone could get radicalized in a different country and think the easiest way for me to get into the U.S. to do something bad is to fly into an airport? I'm throwing this stuff out now, but I'm trying to think, like, what does this Canada angle do? And one angle I'm thinking of is maybe there's somebody who wasn't a citizen who wanted to do something bad here, who said, hey, what I'll do is somehow take advantage of some way that it's easy to fly in. But the tough thing about that is the person, I assume they went through customs if they came in from Canada, or maybe, I don't know, maybe they didn't there. So again, it's a piece of information that's very interesting. We don't know if it's a Canadian citizen. We don't know if they were coming in or coming home. But that seems like, if it's true, an interesting piece of information. Also, that they checked their gun in their baggage, if that's true, is extremely interesting. If that was the gun used in the baggage claim. So let's think this through. If it's true they flew in from Canada and they checked their gun and that's the gun they used, that would mean the person perhaps got on a flight in Canada, checked a gun and said, I'm going to take the gun out of the bag at baggage claim and start shooting people with it. Now, if this is the case, that suggests it's not one of these, I just woke up and took my gun and started randomly killing people, because that's very premeditated. You got to get on a flight, put the gun in your bag, get to the flight a couple hours early, fly from Canada to Florida, which takes several hours. And I'm getting an update here. Within 5 minutes, announce. Oh, okay, sorry, I'm reading this. So we're going to take a small break in 5 minutes, and we're going to be back in 20 minutes, right? So right now it's 2:55. Central Time, 3:55 Eastern Time. In a minute, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be back in about 20 minutes.
Keep the feed up.
So, I'm sorry?
We'll keep the feed up.
And we're going to keep the feed up this whole time. So our live, so you can continue to watch live coverage. We're going to have the news feed up. So you'll get a lot of the same news stuff that the networks are showing. We have this feed. Human beings talking to you from the right side offices in Alabama are going to be back in about 20 minutes. I just want to finish my thought, though. So we're cutting. So we have to take a break now. So thank you for watching so far. Keep watching. We're going to keep the feed up. Our goal is to give you as much information as possible. I'm going to take a little break now, but we're going to have the feed up, and we from the studio will be back in 20 minutes. But stay tuned right now for more of the feed that's coming at you, and we will talk to you with more soon.